about magic. Specifically, it's about magical adepts, people who can alter the very fabric of reality. And these people are known as Vislae, as they are all the children of the goddess Vislae, who lives in the invisible sun. And speaking of invisible sun and suns in general, the world that we live in, our world of 21st century nonsense, is known as the gray sun, or the gray to Vislae. And this place is less a actual world so much as it is an illusion, a distraction, and for many Vislae, a point of refuge for what was known simply as the war. The war devastated much of reality, in particular the home of the Vislae, the world of the indigo sun. And it's in this world where we will find our heroes or rogues or vagabonds, whichever they choose to be. The indigo sun is what is part of the actuality, the real world, not this world of 21st century nonsense and technology. It's the world where magic is as much a part of everyday life as the air we breathe and the blood in our veins. And our story begins in Satyrine, the city of notions, a world where ideas are currency. And in this particular snapshot of the world, we find ourselves dealing with 4 characters, one of which will be making their entrance shortly. But to begin, let's talk a little bit about Gavriel. Marcy?
So, on any given day in Satyrine, since Gav's been back about a year now, she's trying to be anywhere but here, essentially. For Gavriel, Satyrine might as well not be real, having spent most of her life in the gray. She only has very vague memories of ever existing in actuality. She grew up not necessarily in the modern world. Something went wrong when she got pushed through back into the gray or the shadow. Everybody calls it something else. And somehow landed in the 1930s in Russia. She grew up there. She doesn't know why she's back here. It doesn't seem fair. So she spends a lot of time wandering the street, getting her bearings, and wondering why she can't seem to adjust to this world.
Cool. And so let's learn a little bit more about Gavriel. In particular, let's start with her Testament of Sons. Essentially, kind of, there are pieces of every part of each character that belong to the 6-fingered hand of the Testament of Sons. Everybody has one of these in some form or another on their person as they kind of as they make their way through the world of the indigo sun. And a lot of these 6 fingers of that hand are representative of each, major part of the person that carries them. Things like that are kind of new concepts for us, like order, foundation, heart, soul. So, Gavriel, why don't you tell us a little bit more about, your order, your foundation, and the like?
I don't have an order. I am an apostate.
Now.
Because I don't understand this place. It's weird.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what an apostate represents?
So an apostate is somebody who rejects a lot of the common orders that are found in Satyrine. Some of them simply because they're still adjusting, some due to lack of connections, others maybe because they think it's unjust and should not be structured in such a way. I would say that Gav is definitely on that latter end of the spectrum.
Cool. And
so I might even call her an iconoclast.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what an iconoclast represents.
So an iconoclast, and I'm going to botch this definition, which is totally fine, but if you know what an actual iconoclast is, it's basically that. I don't believe that this world is correct. Gav personally believes that something seems very wrong. She can't quite remember her childhood here, and whenever she seems to ask from like the authorities more information, she keeps getting nothing, errors. Somehow a file is missing or something isn't getting back to her on time, and it looks like somebody's keeping something from her, and she doesn't like that at all.
Yeah. And when we say that we reject, the apostate rejects the order, they also reject what is called the path of the suns. And that's actually what you see to the right is of your screen right now is the Testament of Suns. This is a figurative representation of the worlds of the actuality, the indigo sun being one constituent part. There are other worlds. We already know of the gray. There's others such as the blue sun, which is considered the world of dreams and futures. There's the pale sun, where the dead go upon expiring within indigo or within the other suns. There's the world of the red, where demons and beings and creatures that thrive on passion and rage make their home. And with everything, the current of magic is affected by these paths of suns. And so as we play, you're going to see me turn cards from what's known as a sooth deck. Now, these are not prophetic cards. They're not imbued with any sort of magical power, but it's odd how often these cards coincide to affect the currents of magic and affect different suns, which in turn affect the spells to which those that belong to those suns. So one card may have a hidden meaning that also augments spells that come from the blue sun, or they might weaken spells that come from the golden sun, a realm of change. So as we turn those cards, I'll make sure to reveal to you, both Vislae and our audience, what those cards mean and how they affect the game. But continuing where we left off, there's also another piece of you, your character, that's important, Gavriel, which is heart. Tell me a little bit about your heart.
So I'm an ardent, and that means that I express my emotions pretty passionately, I'd say. I tend to get angry quickly. I'm not the most patient person. I think that's pretty fair. And I will get my intentions across. If I want something, I'm getting it in my way specifically.
And so absolutely, we kind of have this really keen kind of sketch of Gavriel now. Can you tell us a little bit about what she looks like?
Oh, it's funny you should say that. So most people in Satyrine need to visit what is called a changery if they want to look like some of the more extreme citizens in the City of Notions, I'd say. But when Gav returned, being recalled from the Grey, something happened. She has a gaping void in her chest where a single silver spinning halo constantly rotates. Clothes don't seem to really cover that. It just sort of sinks into the void. And in addition to that weirdness, she also has parrot feather hair. It also seems to move with her emotions too, very much like a cockatoo. So if she starts to get like antsy or anxious, it starts sticking up. It's multicolored. And she also has, I'd say the only normal looking part of her, she just has standard heterochromia. Each eye is a different color.
Cool. And speaking of that halo that is in the center of your chest, and so
yeah, that didn't used to be there.
Yeah, actually, a quick word on the changeries. The changeries are, you can, as really what's more important than the laws of physics that we know in the world of the gray. The most important thing is kind of the power of your soul, and a lot of times people will spend hard-earned currency called crystal orbs that allow people to spend an inordinate amount of currency to change their appearance, but not really their kind of underlying nature. So because appearance is really just kind of meant like to be a reflection of what people see rather than who you are. And but oftentimes our Vislae like to have those appearances coincide with those souls. And so in the case of a lot of changeries and a lot of citizens, what you end up having are people that can make their heads arranged to look like books, or people who shrink themselves down. There's one maker that maybe some of you may be familiar with who has basically changed his body into a floating rampart, essentially a gigantic floating fortress within the center of their torso. So it really, the changeries, the only limit are the amount of money that you have, and as well as the realms of your imagination, what the limits are there. So, and you can look however you like. And so it's very strange that Gavriel would come to the actuality with those sorts of changes already in place. But speaking of that silver halo, every character also has, or Vislae has, what's known as a forte. So tell us a little bit about yours.
Yeah, so ours is a bit, just for context, it's a bit of a reskin of an actual forte, which is Host a Legion. And Gavriel is hosting a choir, which means kind of exactly what it says on the tin. I have a lot of angels literally in my brain.
And we will see kind of the consequences of that forte as we kind of get deeper into the stream. And that said, before we kind of go into building your neighborhood, I'd love to also kind of turn the spotlight onto Maurice. Tell us a little bit about him, Bill.
Okay, so Maurice is mid-50s. He can't actually remember if he's 53 or 54. And he, in his life in the gray, was a struggling writer. He lived in more or less present-day New York, and alone with his dog, and was fascinated with everyone's stories and loved talking to his neighbors and wandering around. And his life in the Indigo Sun in Satyrine is kind of similar. He is fascinated with this new life that he's found, loves talking to people and figuring out, but he, unlike other people, is obsessed with the gray. He finds its stories immensely valuable where others would dismiss them as part of the great lie. So he is maybe shunned for that a little bit, or pitied for that a little bit, but it doesn't bother him all that much.
Excellent. Cool. So tell me a little bit more about Maurice the Vislae. You belong to a different order from Gavriel, I believe.
Yeah, so magic didn't quite make sense to me when I came back to the actuality. It was hard to really grasp. but someone from the Order of Weavers found me and taught me to connect strands of magical concepts and put them together to create any kind of spell that I want. So it's a very different kind of magical understanding. But I'm an order. I am a member of the Order of the Weaver.
Nice. And weavers as a whole, they deal with what are called aggregates, basically these kind of greater concepts from which they can wield their magical powers and kind of combine and tether them together to produce certain effects. And would you like to tell us which aggregates you've chosen?
Yes, so I have chosen the aggregate of heart. Heart is life, laughter, love, interaction, and society.
Nice.
And I've chosen wind, which is the breath of the world, moving and touching all things.
No, it's very true to Maurice's character, so I was excited when you picked those. So tell me now, actually, before we go forward, I was actually kind of curious, what kind of writing did Maurice do when he was in New York City?
He loved writing science fiction and fantasy, did a little ghost writing, wrote some magazine articles, nothing anybody's really ever read, but that also didn't really bother him that.
Nice. And was that the same thing that Maurice liked to read, or did he kind of diversify?
He read everything. Enjoyed reading history, enjoyed reading about nature, enjoyed reading pulp romance novels.
And what was the name of your dog?
I have a Shetland sheepdog named Duncan. I, in fact, recreated this dog to have as my companion in the Actuality. It's what's called a thought form. So it's a physical entity with no soul, but it has all of the actions and behaviors that I imbued it with of my companion. So it's a very obedient black and white fur Shetland sheepdog that always just follows me everywhere and jumps up in my lap at my job, which I can.
So a word on kind of the other inhabitants and kind of the Actuality. Thought forms are basically kind of the technological, the magical equivalent of technology. So the way that we use a smartphone or a vacuum cleaner is the way a lot of people use thought forms. So essentially, there's really kind of like, while it seems like a little bit controversial, in fact, this is kind of commonplace. This would be controversial in the Gray. This is commonplace in Satyrine. Where you're essentially taking your magic and you're imbuing it with a sort of quality of life that allows it to kind of perform routine tasks. So there's oftentimes that something like a thought form like Duncan is fairly commonplace. So that said, can you tell us a little bit more about your heart and your foundation and a few of those other things?
So my heart is the empath. So I'm a listener. I'm very patient and understanding, which has lent its way into my occupation. My foundation is a stalwart, which means I have a connection to an organization, and that organization is the organization that runs the Center for Newly Arrived Vislae exiting the Gray, that are waking up from the Matrix, basically. And I am the welcoming presence that readjusts them to the world.
And would you like to tell us a little bit more about the organization as a whole?
So the Hendasa is a bit of a strange organization. Maurice really just focuses on the individuals he knows in the Hendasa, but it's kind of an organization where the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and the goals of the organization and even the membership changes very rapidly, but they are concerned with getting Vislae out of the Gray. Mm-hmm. And they have agents called the Gray Reapers that some would say rescue, others would say violently abduct Vislae out of the gray and bring them back. I'm just happy to talk to people who are returning.
Yeah, perfect. So we've gotten into your heart. We've gotten into your foundation. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your forte?
So my forte as a writer in the gray, I am a writer in the actuality, and I turn tales into reality.
Very apropos. Yeah, so essentially a lot of kind of like the ability to actually kind of animate abstract concepts in actual writing and fiction and creations is really kind of within Maurice's wheelhouse. And once again, we'll find out more about how that works in future episodes and maybe a little bit later today. So that said, we're going to take, again, a chance to get back to Maurice and kind of your neighborhood and where in Satyrine you live. But first, let us meet our resident Vance. Marissa?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm playing Kyrrie. She goes by Kyrrie to most of the people that she knows, although they're relatively limited. Apart from her order, she doesn't have a whole lot of friends. She prefers to kind of keep to herself. She's pretty introverted, logical. She sort of thinks a lot. Well, she thinks a lot. She thinks hard and deeply and long and contemplatively. But often that means she things outside of that process is quite, shall we say, distracting to that impetus or that goal. She is a first assistant librarian of the Order of the Vance, and she serves in the Fartown campus, which the Vance, they call their university or their headquarters, the campus, in the A.R. Quarian Memorial Library, Rhizomatic and General Esoteric Studies, which, if you think that sounds like a mouthful, it's because it is. And that's a big part of the Vancian Research Library Consortium. Her focus is on linguistics. That's her sort of discipline of study. And that carries over from interests that she actually had in the Grey, which is she was in also the 1930s, much like Gav, but in a very different part. She was in 1930s London and was a socialite. And for those of you who know anything really about 1930s London, as a socialite, you wouldn't have been expected to have any sort of life of the mind. You were basically expected to, go to parties, to develop networks, to, be influential, but not necessarily to have your goals or your own intellectual pursuit. So she was really sought after for her wealth and not really valued for her mind in the Grey, which she fought against by working in secret at King's College London to build something she called the Metalexicographical Engine, or Metalex engine for short. And the idea is that it's effectively the spiritual successor to Ada Lovelace's analytic engine. She knew of Ada Lovelace, and in fact, we may get into whether or not Ada Lovelace herself was a Vislae. But she saw her as her kind of intellectual successor, and so she studied her deeply and built the Metalex engine basically to do to linguistics and language what the analytical engine would have done, as perhaps the first proto-computer, shall we say.
Yeah, I absolutely love this. And also I'm kind of, as an old school D&D player, I am going to absolutely love Vance's, just as a general rule. And just kind of a note of explanation of the Order. The Order of the Vance, they believe something that is inherently interesting to them about the nature of magic. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so the Order of the Vance effectively focuses on the mathematical nature of spells and spellcasting, and they also look at spells as living entities. So, effectively self-aware entities, right? So not just something that we do, it's something that we communicate with spell. And that means having it inhabit us, not necessarily just using it to serve our will or our gain. And so the group of Vances, the way that they cast magic is by holding a certain number of spells in their mind at the same time. And those spells are determined in part by the size of the spell, the bandwidth of the Vance who's doing the casting, as well as, I guess, from a more story perspective, how many of those spells that are living things you can actually deal with at the same time. So the order is quite rigid, quite logical, quite structured, and very much believes that, okay, if you input A into the system and you know how that process works from a mathematical or logical perspective, you get B.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's the idea of the Vance kind of clothing themselves in their spells is a really powerful one. It's actually something that has is in the tradition of Jack Vance of Gygaxian D&D fame. So very cool. Always kind of a great nod to the old school there. So I expect great things. So tell us a little bit more about your foundation and your heart.
Yeah, sure. So my heart is as a Stoic. Being a Stoic is kind of very much in line with the Vancian Order's values. Being a Stoic means that you think very calmly and contemplatively about things. That on the whole, you're quite calm in terms of how you approach problems, and that you may take some time to come to the right answer, but when you do that analysis, that answer benefits from how long that you've thought about it and how long you've felt it. Kind of contrary to Ardent on Gav's side, emotion is sort of hard to process for Stoics. Not that Stoics don't feel in the same way. It's just it's harder to compute emotion because it doesn't fit a specific schema. And I think, that's certainly something that Kyrrie has struggled with over the course of her life thus far. Some people expect her to have an emotional answer or an emotional response to something, and she hasn't always been able to produce that for people. But I think it's something, she's been working through in true Stoic nature. In terms of foundation, it's much the same story. She's someone who keeps to herself a lot. She is eremitic, which basically means even though she exists within the Order of the Vance, she doesn't feel specific connections or bonds to a lot of people within that order. She sees the Order very much as, in a way, a home, but more as an institution that houses the work she's doing rather than a social group with whom she can bond and be a part of. I think there are days that Kyrrie almost thinks, I would rather be invisible and not have to interact with people who are, maybe waving at me in the hall or something. And in part that ties back to her heart because she doesn't always know the right way to interact with them.
Absolutely. And yeah, you've always had a way with words more than people. And can you tell us a little bit more about that forte then?
Yes. So my forte is understands words, which fits her linguistics background. She's always wanted to understand the process of signs and signifiers. For any of you philosophy nerds out there like me, that's something that's talked about in a lot of post-structuralist philosophy and language thinking, current linguistic thinking. How do signs being language, convey meaning? And so that's something that the Metalex engine that Kyrrie built in the Gray was looking into. So how do we actually take language in terms of how we use it in a social context and apply it to a structure or a taxonomy in a way that we can understand it more deeply? So it's only right that her forte, that she finds herself back in the Actuality with, is understanding the words. So she has a gift for languages, for understanding objects and things or situations she may not have even ever encountered before, simply by virtue of almost being able to see into, think like the code of the universe, right? You can see how things are built, so you can understand a little bit more about what it might be, even if you've never encountered that word or that language before.
Excellent. I love it. So that leaves us with one more figure who hasn't really left the gray yet. So, Hopper, why don't you tell us about Twig?
Words. So Twig, is a currently homeless, Gallant Apostate. Most noticeably, I don't really remember what's going on. There's been a little bit of memory loss. Things haven't been going super, but Twig is not specifically. You can't really suss out an age, and if you ask, they give you a really rude response. And as far as gender, you're kind of there's always that kind of like, wait, maybe I'm not sure. And again, if you ask, you get an even ruder response. But as of right now, Zach, do you want to know about what specifically do you...
Let's actually. I think we should still kind of consider the kind of like the Vislae that you've created.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, tell us more, kind of in line with what everybody's done thus far, and then we will get into your neighborhood later.
Yeah. So Twig is Gallant, but doesn't particularly like that phrasing. They're much more about the rogue lifestyle, being clever and not being noticed, and but they have a strong dislike of the system as it is. It's completely imbalanced, and is not capable of taking care of the basic needs of many people and/or things. And some of those things are probably people, and they shouldn't be considered things. But hey, that's a whole nother problem. Twig's forte is probably one of the bigger problems in their life. They are a logivore, which means that they eat knowledge, which tends to upset people, especially librarians.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Librarians, booksellers, periodical people.
Hey, I try to do the world a favor, and I mostly eat shitty romance novels.
Hey.
Found. In general, the Twig doesn't really know what's going on, but they know that they love growing things, and that's always been a big part of their internal self, is this drive to nurture and to help living things, especially plants and other sorts of flourish.
And so tell us a little bit about Twig's heart.
Heart?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. As a Gallant, Twig is quick to a little bit fiery, quick to react, a little bit sassy, a little bit of a few authority issues here and there, just to swear. And in general is prone to fast reaction, decisive action. And usually, I swear, it's usually thought out.
You promise? You swear?
Pinky promise.
So tell me a little bit about your foundation, and we already know kind of the order to which you belong, but tell us what that means to you.
So specifically, Twig is an apostate, and part of that is kind of an underlying sense of that's the right direction. But a larger part of that is also that I don't remember what the fuck I did when I was last here. I have no idea who I am. Like, I remember most of the gray, but other than that, like, I don't know what's going on, dude.
Yeah.
Like, this is, I mean, I kind of like, I know that I know how to cast spells. I know how to get some places, but I don't know how I know to get those places, which is a very disconcerting feeling. But as of right now, I am homeless, and because I don't really remember where I'm supposed to belong. And that's a very disconcerting feeling. That's a feeling of alienation. And which has drawn Twigg to deliberately push back against these structured orders and these systems that I don't belong to.
Cool. Yeah, no, absolutely. And where in the gray is Twigg right now?
Twigg is in Detroit, circa 1980 something.
Perfect. Awesome. So we're going to do one more quick round robin, and this is actually kind of where we figure out kind of what the Desideratum is. And the Desideratum is Monty Cook's term for essentially what drives the players and what the players want to get out of their game. But in order to do that, we also kind of need to build a neighborhood for them, for each of them, and basically kind of determine the bonds that those characters share with the other player characters. And so because the war that devastated Satyrine has left what is often called a great deal of ruined expanse, we actually find ourselves in the process really of rebuilding the City of Notions. And oftentimes, people are coming back to homes they left. People are making new homes within the Indigo Sun. And so it really kind of falls upon our player characters to actually kind of rebuild and reforge bonds, and often kind of come into conflict with strangers who are now their neighbors. And so let's go ahead and again start with Gavriel. And I think in this case, we also kind of start with Maurice as well. So tell us a little bit about your bond, and also kind of let's start going into your neighborhood, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Okay, so Gavriel was referred to me in my position as an employee in the Acclimation Center as a special case. And because she actually had not yet found her house, and they turned to someone who was in a similar situation once, myself. I didn't have a house, and actually, much like Hopper described for Twigg, didn't really remember any part of my life in the actuality. A lot of details, certainly in my writing, that were very clear once I saw them. Oh, that's where I got that idea from. But anyway, my house found me, appeared to me on a walk. It was an exact recreation of my apartment in New York City. And I moved right in. And Gavriel is now my roommate.
More like I'm not allowed to leave.
I've always said you can come and go as you please.
So something really cool about this setting and kind of the neighborhood mechanic in the house neighborhood or house mechanic is that houses are a lot like people. They have souls. They kind of grow and change with the people who inhabit them, because everything in the actuality is imbued with magic. It's part and parcel of life. And so that said, why don't we go ahead and let's take a look, and why don't you guys tell me something about the neighbors that you guys have. And I think it's calls for 2 for each of you. And we can yeah. So
I think there's definitely probably both neighbors on the immediate sides of me really enjoyed that there wasn't a house there before, and now there is a house there. And yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're not even Vislae themselves, and so had a natural antagonism towards us.
I don't think Gav's the easiest neighbor.
So, what kind of what do you see these neighbors being? At least the one that's antagonistic. Is it a family? Is it somebody who, is it another Vislae? Is it maybe a Lacunae or an Elderbrin? And we'll explain what those are in just a minute.
I'd say definitely an Elderbrin for sure. That's kind of had it up to here with Vislae.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Elderbrin are very interesting kind of creatures within the world of the Actuality. They're basically, they are creatures that are inherently magical. They're not necessarily like Vislae where they can cast spells as we know them. They're kind of they have magical qualities, and one of these it takes the form of their faces or their heads, which is they're able to basically change their shape, predominantly their heads. Like for instance, any family, and they're very family based. So an entire family of Elderbrin you might be able to demarcate because they have various heads that resemble birds of prey, or a specific species of eagle. They're very, typically they're just kind of a more aloof part of Satyrine society than we might think of as kind of like as Vislae. And I think in this case, some of them very much do have an antipathy towards Vislae because oftentimes their inherently magical abilities and qualities are sought after by unscrupulous Vislae for rituals.
They definitely
and what
think
have
I'm
you.
mocking them.
Say that again?
They definitely think I'm mocking them with my hair.
Oh yeah, absolutely. How dare you?
Absolutely. We've had this screaming match at like 3 a.m. or whatever passes for 3 a.m.
Yeah, let's let's give this neighbor a name. Let's call. Do you guys have a name in mind?
No, Marcy, do you?
Great. I think like Gab's just like always insulting them, so she's probably now calling them by whatever their name really.
And I'm picking up pieces.
Yeah,
Yep, exactly.
Wait, which one? What's that?
No, I think for Gab will just be standing out like on the. You have a fire escape, I'm assuming, because
Of
it's
course.
New York State Department. Yeah,
Of
no,
course.
I've definitely been standing out there squawking at them because they keep trying to tell me to change my hair to go back to the changeries to do it, and don't know how to keep explaining to them that this is my real hair.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Poncy raptor-faced motherfucker.
So this is an individual or family? What are you feeling, Marcy?
Oh, it's a family.
Oh man.
Of course, I have
Okay.
to swear at the tiny
Yeah.
children and be a terrible influence.
Yeah, and they live in. Why would they live in Fartown? It's
I thought you named them Clean. K-L-E-E-N-G.
That's canon. Their name. It's the Clean family.
The Clean family.
Oh, I hate them
Get in a
even
fight.
more.
You can get in a fight with Mr. Clean.
You know what? This is really great because I love alliteration. Let's make them. Let's make the matriarch Coraxia Clean.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Just compounding their crimes right now.
I wave to her every morning, and she never waves back.
I imagine things were a lot nicer between you guys until I showed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I dig that. Okay, so we have. We're gonna definitely call that a negative. What other neighbor do you have?
And Marcy will get two of her own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's go Vislae. And let's say it's a Vislae that maybe is a bit more neutral, but my house as it appeared, like it has a bit of a sidewalk, that leads to nowhere on both ends, and it's encroaching on their property line. And they, there was a little bit of antagonism there at first, and this was before Gavriel moved in. But yeah, they're a fan of my dog, and we got to talking about dogs and maybe bonded over that. So we have at least pleasant stand.
Awesome. And this is, what is the name of this Vislae?
Feeling Sammy.
All right. Is Sammy a he, a she, or a they?
Let's do she.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And let's say that she is also from New York.
Awesome.
But entirely different borough. We never.
Of course, that's how it is. Cool. So we got one positive. Okay. So, Gabby, your turn.
Oh boy. Well, I think Gabby, for the most part. Also, side note: never call me Gabby. Where did that come
Gavriel.
from?
Never again.
It's either Gab
never
or
again.
Gav.
I
I like Gav.
I'm gonna set all of you on fire. I'm pretty sure she doesn't talk to too many people, but I don't know how far we can extend the concept of neighbors. But I think that if Gav frequents a nearby establishment a lot, most likely that museum, the Castle of Lies, if I'm recalling it correctly.
Cool.
She probably knows some of the security guards there.
All right.
Has definitely established like a neutral relationship with one of them, if only so because she had a long-con going where she stole one of the sniper rifles from one of the cases. So it was a good relationship, and now definitely probably not so much. I think I might have gotten him fired.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, no.
I don't really care too much.
On the plus side, there is kind of like a there is. I'd say this is probably because you could probably make a thought form bodyguard. This is probably was the head of security, and this might have been something important to the Castle of Lies. So also kind of speaking about the setting a little bit, the Castle of Lies is literally a museum that kind of takes relics that have been kind of absconded with or removed from the gray and kind of put on display for the rest of the Vislae of Fartown. So a lot of odd objects and sometimes very personal objects find their way into the Museum of Lies. So in this case, so you've kind of absconded with this sniper rifle. Probably
They
the head of
weren't
security.
using it.
Nobody was using it, clearly. Yeah.
Right, so it doesn't belong in a glass case. It's a perfectly functioning gun. I'm gonna take.
And this one definitely is kind of a bolt action click clack.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Oh, it's so old fashioned. Oh, Gav loves it.
awesome.
So it all worked out in the end for me.
And then so in addition to so you have this neutral relationship. Can you tell me a little bit? Do you know the name of the bodyguard?
The security guard?
Or security guard, rather,
let's
pardon me.
call him Abion.
Abiot?
Abion. Abion. So
Okay,
I just put those letters together right now.
I got it. I got you. Okay. So got a neutral relationship with Abion. I'm sure that so the other kind of cool thing is very well, in order to be close to work, somebody like Abion or any really Vislae they have these very unique domiciles. Like I said, they change and they are unique to each person that lives in them. And sometimes people can do things like live inside of books in a particular shelf in a library, and you check it out and you walk through the book and it resets itself. Or you can have somebody who lives in a mailbox, or somebody who has a maybe what looks like a newsstand, and you walk through it and it folds in on the inside such that it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, to quote a famous British science fiction series. And and so yeah, so do you have any kind of idea where Abian would live now?
Oh, I don't think Gav cares.
Oh, okay.
I think that was just sort of like, she's not super great at interacting with people, but she saw something that she wanted, so she put a lot of work into making sure she could get it.
Cool. Okay. We'll look for Abian in the future. What about your second neighbor?
I think we have this nice, like, grandmotherly woman who lives down our street, Mo, who is trying to make Gav eat more because she's too skinny.
Is this a Vislae or?
I think she's absolutely a Vislae. What do you think?
I love that.
I'm down.
I think Gav responds well to her because he's like from old country.
Mm-hmm.
And she's less snippy with that woman because she seems to not. She's not like doing anything political. She's not doing anything like wrong. She's just like seeing this scrawny like 21-year-old and deciding to like try and be nice to her. So like I think Gav tries to respect that, and it usually grudgingly will accept like an offering of food, or will sit down with her if she's like out on like her porch or the stoop, and will chat with her for a minimum amount of time.
Cool.
What does she think about you shacking up with the weirdo in the gray apartment?
I think I told her that the Hindasa didn't really give me a lot of choices in that, and she's just like always just nodding her head understandingly, like, oh yeah. And she's constantly telling me that I'm gonna find my house and family somewhere, because people don't just lose those things.
That's what I always say.
She doesn't quite get it though, but she's not all there. You should have more understanding of this.
Cool. And how do you spell that?
I did not give her a name yet.
You said Alma or Elmo?
I did not, actually.
Oh, okay.
But
although that's a perfectly good name. Let's use it.
Yeah, let's call her Alma. How about that?
The words just come out.
I know.
Cool. Spanish for heart. Okay.
Aww.
So, what about some things that are going on in the neighborhood and points of interest? What's going on in your neighborhood?
What is going on in our neighborhood?
That's a great question.
I'm usually trying to leave the neighborhood.
So I think you're probably, Gavriel is probably the most disruptive presence in our little corner of our town. Coming back at all hours, making a ruckus. Your angel's making a ruckus.
That's not on me.
It's literally on you.
I mean, but I can't.
So, if there's a lot of, you know what? Why not have? So there's actually a list of suggestions here in the key, and some of them are things like high amounts of crime, vandals, young troublemakers. Heavy thaw activity, which depends on the character, and the thaw are basically the kind of law-keeping and peacekeeping force within Satyrine. We'll get more into them later when they become relevant. And then we have lots of new construction. We also have things like rats and rat goblin infestations, and those things.
Oh yeah. I mean, so I think, yeah, so we're kind of between the Castle of the Lie and the False Arch.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, there's some horrible infestation over by the False Arch. So we maybe would take the long way to get home sometime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
I don't know what.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't know what they are. Rat goblins?
Yes.
Whatever.
Rat goblins
No.
are nasty.
You try living one winter in Moscow, then you get back to me about how bad the rat goblins are.
Wasn't rat goblin your military call sign?
It might as well have been.
So we have a rat goblin infestation. So there's also a couple of things that we can say about maybe the local gerent, and the gerent is basically kind of like the leader, or the kind of like the de facto council head of a neighborhood. And so we have things like the local Gallant is kind and good, or the local Gallant is corrupt. And the other side of that is we can also have things like Grig and ghost infestations, and Grigs are their own issue as well. But we also have the potential to have some really cool kind of positive stuff as well. So like there are things like large number of Lacunae or Elderbren, and those are kind of considered neutral. But
I'll take the ghost.
say that again.
I said I'll take the ghosts over the Elderbren.
Yeah, they don't like you much. That's fair. Yeah. So, do you guys have any kind of thoughts on what other local issues there might be?
Well, I maybe want to get Marissa involved, because I think you also live in Fartown. Do you have any thoughts about like the Gallant, or what that might be? What you're feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The university is sort of kept at a bit of a, I think, from a lot of what else is happening in Fartown. Much like any college town, I think it's almost this town and gown effect, where if you are in the university structure, like, you know, the politics are pretty contained there, although can be impacted, of course, by what happens in the overall city. So like the research funding that goes into the institution, obviously like larger political climate stuff issues, you know, will impact what the scholars are doing within the walls of the university. But I mean, I feel like maybe the Gallant might have something where maybe they're a little skeptical of all of the money. I assume there's crystals being exchanged, or crystals go to kind of fund a lot of the research being done in the campus. And I think maybe the local Gallant, you know, might be a little bit skeptical about that, or whether or not all those crystals are really justified. That maybe could create some tension between the kind of de facto head of the campus and the governance structure of the city.
I dig it. I think maybe this Gallant is brand new, because the old Gallant was pushed out because of corruption.
Cool.
So this one seems good, seems straightforward, and maybe has that skeptical relationship with the Vancian camp.
Yeah, maybe they kind of are coming into clean house, and so they're naturally a bit of audit and going through and going, okay, is this really necessary? Is that really necessary?
And you know what? I think that essentially also because of your relationship with the Order of the Vance, I think that you kind of helped kind of cozy up to the Gallant, and also helped Maurice and Gav get kind of situated, because the Lacunae were angry about the Elderbren were angry about the house being there where there wasn't any, and they kind of seem hostile. And I think that probably, you know, unless this is kind of a little bit too corrupt, maybe they may be up to you on the priority list for resettlement. What do you think? Yeah. Okay. So does this Gallant have a name?
Ooh, good question.
His name is Randy Stempler.
What?
So Randy.
Those were definitely words.
Randy Stempler.
Randy Sampler. Okay.
I think words.
The
is stretching that.
Esquire. Put Esquire on the end.
That's very important.
Yeah, it gives him a bit of a flair there.
Randy.
Yeah, he thinks he's like a practicing lawyer, some sort of like official.
Oh no, I don't like him.
Randy
no.
Sampler Esquire.
His shadow memento is a notary seal that doesn't mean anything in this world.
You could not have crafted a character
but he
that
still will put it on everything.
We do things my way. We do it by the book. Got the notary
And the
seal
book,
right here.
and then stamps his shopping with the notary seal.
What if
Gav can't be
Castle of Lies and like took this stamp pad and actually like removed it from the museums so that he could use his notary seal on everything?
Oh my god, I found my nemesis.
Please don't kill the Gallant.
Oh my god, you've made it so easy.
We need this Gallant. He stamps things. He gives us approval for our zoning permits.
The approval we desperately need.
Oh my god, it really is like back in old country.
Okay, so I think that, yeah, if we're gonna, I think we could kind of like simplify this and, so we have one neighborhood for Maurice and Gav, because you share a house or are housemates. That's your bond officially as well. And basically, housemates as a PC bond, what you're able to do is essentially pool your resources to start out with. So that kind of gives you the opportunity to add what are called augments slots to your house, so that, you know, the more you kind of advance in the story and the more you develop what are called experience points or acumen, or I think and for crux, I think, is the experience points that drive the house development. You can enhance your house that much more. So that said, so we've kind of defined the neighborhood, and we'll kind of get back to like points of local interest. But Kyrrie, do you live in the same neighborhood as Gavin Maurice?
No, so I think I actually live within the grounds of the city itself on campus. I think this is something, you know, that's commonplace. Say, for example, in universities in the UK, you often have faculty actually have some sort of space or home that they are assigned to live in on campus. Usually it's pretty sparse, and I think, you know, I've rolled that that'll hold true here as well. It's not nearly as grandiose or, you know, unique as, say, accommodation you would have if you didn't live on campus, but it sort of binds you a little bit more to the world of the university, because it literally is not only your job, but it's also your home life. So you literally are living that kind of scholarly academic existence, you know, for the entirety of a day, I think.
Awesome. Cool. So tell me a little bit about kind of what your life is like on campus in terms of, tell me a few points of interest. Tell me a little bit about kind of your neighbors as well. I imagine this is because it's kind of like grad student housing almost. Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So yeah, just to kind of flesh out a little bit more of what the campus actually is, what it looks like, how it runs. It's made up of 17 buildings. It's got administrative offices, records offices, lecture halls, and more. It's basically a place that a lot of the Vance order spends a lot of their time. So I'm not by any means, you know, off the wall or odd for living on campus. I think a lot of people who have jobs in the campus or in the university do. If a Vance usually isn't teaching a class or taking a class, they are teaching it, or they are otherwise functioning somewhere in the general scholarly society. I think the classes offered range from, say, your like typical undergraduate course to your advanced workshops for students who know they want to specialize and they, you know, want to go up the ranks of the Vance, and, you know, someday maybe end up on the Telomeric Council, which is effectively the head of the university. You have to be a 6th order Vance in order to be on the Telomeric Council, and that's something that I think a lot of Vances work towards. It's sort of a democratic, say, group of scholar kings, right? They all kind of rule over things that affect the life of the university, the life of the mind, and then overall the Vancian order and what it stands for. You know, I think there's hundreds of classes. Classes are generally scheduled in 8-week blocks. And most classes are not offered each time, much like a university, you know, in the gray. I think there's a couple similarities. Some charge fees, so there is sort of a money structure or a crystal exchange built into some of the work of the Vance. And I think they have had to contend with people who are not Vances, trying to kind of crash the classes occasionally to try to get knowledge that is not of their general making.
Power to the people.
And I think
well, you know, there's a large security force to take care of that. So
I've heard that one before.
So actually, the funny thing about that too is I think the reasons for that are twofold, right? Because not only you know, is that, you know, knowledge sacred and precious, but it's also very dangerous in the wrong hands. I mean, you're kind of, you have this completely different understanding of spellcrafting and spell casting than other members of other orders do. And not only
Right.
that, but this actually kind of brings up the idea of why Fartown exists outside of a map of Satyrine. Is essentially it is a kind of pocket dimension that where a lot of Vislae live, not because it's that much more desirable or that much nicer neighborhood, but literally because it's for the protection of the rest of the city, because a lot of Vislae that are coming back, they're kind of experimenting with their powers and refining their abilities, and sometimes that can have very dangerous consequences.
For sure.
Mhm.
I think, a typical day, just to add to sort of what you might see happening if you take the campus almost as the neighborhood that Kyrrie lives in. Her typical day, I think, is mostly spent within the confines of the library she works in, which is one of the two major libraries on campus. It's dedicated to sort of general esoteric studies. But what that means actually is that the collection that is housed there is actually living. And that's not just in the Vancian way of saying that words or spells have life, but it actually is a collection or a menagerie almost of spell artifacts, magical things that are kept housed in those departments in the older levels of the university or of the library structure. And so often her job on a day-to-day basis involves having to fight things, in the bowels of the library in order to pull a specific piece of research for an inquiring scholar. So scholarly communication is quite a bit different than I think you would find it works in the Grey. In fact, because there's a lot of physical searching involved, not just sort of pulling books. So Kyrrie does get, I think, a lot of puzzle solving experience working where she works in the library. And that's maybe something her neighbors don't entirely understand. They at least one of them, I think, kind of poo-poos the idea of scholarly communication being so analog. I guess we could give him a name. We'll call him Gilles, I guess. Gilles.
Okay.
Lles. Let's say he's maybe a recently graduated PhD, the equivalent level, like a journeyman Vance, who maybe thinks he's a little bit better than everyone else who's at the university. Maybe he was told he was, pretty special when he was coming up through his class. Got a lot of, pats on the head from various professors. Told he had a great life ahead of him. All of that. And so maybe he thinks he knows a better way. Maybe he has a lecturing position right out of his PhD. So maybe he's teaching one course, and he thinks that's something that's super uncommon and rare. I think maybe he is pushing for more of a digital approach to scholarly communication, which actually, if I may, gives me a moment to kind of talk about very briefly technology in this structure. So it's called, the way that we think about like computers or radios or telephones or things of that kind, it's sort of shadow thinking. So when you are actually in Satyrine, it's not like we're asking, when are we technologically, like have they invented the radio, have they invented a computer? Those things are just in the Grey, the way that certain processes were described or created as objects. So like it's more about in Satyrine what a computer would do, not the technology that was built in order to do that thing. So when I say like digital communication, I'm saying that this guy basically thinks that he has a better way to do librarianness, right? Very technical term, librarianness. He thinks you could utilize some sort of magical force or channel it to make librarians like obsolete, so no one actually would have to go into the collection and find things for people, which I think kind of pisses Kyrrie off a little bit, because she is a librarian and she sees her job as a kind of hub of expertise, right? So she doesn't like him.
So absolutely, but the beautiful thing about him being a journeyman Vance is you can boss him around because you're first degree.
Yes.
So basically another thing that's really interesting is kind of how the different degrees of orders work. Typically every order except apostates has 6 degrees of advancement, which you can earn experience points or crux points to I believe acumen actually to advance. And generally people who are higher in degree, or Vislae who are higher in degree in their order, have some say or dominion over people who are lower in degree in the order. And for a journeyman, basically first degree, Vances can ask them to do menial or otherwise basically routine tasks. So if you wanted to give Guy busy work and make him resent it, I'm sure that's something you can do.
I literally wrote him down as an asshole PhD dude, bro.
Yes, that's very. I think we all know one of those probably at some point in our lives. I've encountered that person, so that's definitely that person for Kyrrie. I think his solution to scholarly communication also probably involves the aether, which might be a good thing to talk about too. It's basically like an energy or an airflow, but it's connected to like the spirit realm. And Zach can probably talk a little more about this, but he thinks that you could harness that force to kind of do this work better, but doing that is actually kind of dangerous and could come with some potentially big consequences.
Absolutely. So etheric kind of devices are able to basically tap into this kind of force field, or this kind of field of energy that in which a lot of supernatural entities, and in particular ghosts, live. So something that we don't think twice about in terms of the gray. In our world, something like a cell phone or a radio is actually considered very dangerous in Satyrine, just because you can tap into this kind of alternative resource that is populated with demons and ghosts and other kind of creatures. And if you are not very careful, you can be manipulated or otherwise kind of taken over by those forces. So again, dangerous. This guy probably thinks he's some sort of rogue maverick, and it's probably a point of pleasure for you to put him in his place. So good on you.
Definitely.
So let's talk about your second neighbor. What do you have anybody in mind?
A little bit more mysterious, I think. I think this woman is definitely older. Maybe a Vance of the 3rd or 4th order. I think, maybe someone Kyrrie looks up to a little bit. Or maybe someone who's come into the library before and Kyrrie's had a couple of good interactions with. She's been very efficient. She's been very concise about what she wants. Always returns her materials on time. Very important. And, I think maybe once Kyrrie made conversation about how they live so close together, but, maybe she's never home. And that's always been a kind of point of mystery for Kyrrie. I think she maybe has a suspicion that she's Parasad, which is a Vancian order, a bit of the Vancian order, which is basically like an MI5 or a secret service. They are kind of like a task force that's sent to go like clean up big magical messes. But how you become one of those is like not well known, even within the Order of the Vans. I would guess that it's like people come to you and slip a little note under the door that says like show up behind this bush at 10 o'clock at night, and then we'll see if you have the right stuff, kind of thing.
Sounds like a risky proposition.
Very skull and bones.
Well, whether or not you show up, that's the first test. Maybe if you don't show up, it's actually better.
Oh God, if you had to like solve an equation or something before, that would tell you where to go.
Well, I bet that like in the upper like classes that the professors are told to keep an eye out for adepts or people who would be specifically suited to that way of life. or that path. And so maybe like the Telmeric Council keeps an eye on those individuals. Maybe even Kyrrie was one pinned for that, but she didn't really get past sort of stage one of the vetting, as it were, and was decided, you know what, you're a better librarian and you like that better anyway, so go ahead and stay where you are. But I think Kyrrie suspects this woman is part of this organization.
Do you know her name?
Let's say, how about Alinea, maybe?
Okay, cool. So with Alinea, there is so something very interesting about the Vance is you actually have a spell that you can cast on a higher degree member of the order, and basically what it does is it kind of, you know, shows obeisance and kind of respect. It showers the Vance that is the recipient or the target of the spell with respect and admiration, and or at least kind of washes the feeling over them, and it only functions if the Vance that casts it actually feels it. So have you ever cast that spell on Alinea?
You know, I think she probably has, but they're encountered that, you know, maybe it didn't work, and Kyrrie just didn't know if it didn't work because she was out of range or if it didn't work because it was not accepted, basically. But I think she would like to try again if given the opportunity, because I think she definitely respects Alinea. It's just Alinea is almost never home. Maybe Kyrrie thinks that she could actually be someone who could be a mentor to her, but they would have to be around each other for enough time.
Cool. We're going to call that one a positive. Okay. So, just kind of going over everything. Now, because of the nature of this starting session, we're not necessarily going to be able to go over Twigg's neighborhood. We're going to do that in our next episode. But what I'm going to do, however, is we're going to kind of tally up everybody's kind of sources of joy and sources of despair. And if kind of one overrides the other, each of you will get what is called a point of joy or a point of despair. And they're basically kind of units that represent, you know, fundamental experience for our player characters. And you have to experience both, because only when you have one joy and one despair do you get to put them together to make what's called a point of crux. And crux is essentially the currency that the player characters use. It's a form of experience point that allows them to up their abilities in their forte, as well as, I believe, not necessarily their order, but also kind of like the advancement of their house, because the two are very much kind of representative of who and what you are. That said, one other thing to note that we didn't talk about is that everybody who is a player character in Satyrine, or who is a Vislae, has what is called a secret soul, a kind of figure. It's almost kind of like a totem that is one of a constituent member of this kind of concept called the Magisterium. Think of it almost like a Vislae's zodiac. And essentially at one point in their hour of greatest need, a Vislae may reveal their secret soul along with their secret name to invoke a one-time benefit. However, you have to be very careful who knows your name, as that gives them some degree of power over them. But at the same time, people who know your secret name, you have some measure of power over them as well. So just taking a look at my tallies. So Kyrrie, we have kind of a neutral, I'd say actually positive, because of your relationship with the Gallant. So why don't you right now take 1 point of joy and go ahead and record that. For Maurice and Gav, we have, I'd say, yeah, with the rat the goblin infestation, this kind of puts you actually, hold on. No, you guys ended up neutral, so we're not going to have joy or despair for you guys. That said, everybody now has what's access to what's called a wicked key. And a wicked key, now one of the kind of more surreal aspects of Satyrine in this game is that a wicked key is typically what one of many thousands of keys that falls from the sky during what is called a key fall, much like rainfall. And oftentimes these keys are to locks that you'll never understand or have access to, but oftentimes or occasionally what will fall within the rainfall or the key fall is a wicked key. And a wicked key is good to use to bypass one obstacle. And that obstacle can be an actual physical obstacle. It could be a mental obstacle, or it could be a person. So I want everybody to record their one wicked key on their sheet. And these are so called because they're often kind of contorted in these symbols that are actual reflections of the path of suns. So this is where we decide basically what the Desideratum is, kind of the direction of the adventures, and this is based on what the players want for their adventures, which I think is a really great bit of player-driven, record keeping here. So with that in mind, actually, before we go forward, I believe Maurice and Kyrrie, you guys have a bond.
We do. I think what we settled on was fellow students. Is that what it was called? Mm-hmm. And we knew each other when we first got back to the Actuality, and had some initial. I guess I don't want to go into too much detail just yet, but some initial interactions and know each other from way back, but probably haven't spoken in more than a year or so.
Yeah. Came to the Gray about the same, or out of the Gray at about the same time. I think, both Maurice and Kyrrie love knowledge, love reading, and so that kind of drew them together initially to kind of, we're both thrown into this new world, new situation. We want to learn, we want to see what's here, and kind of forged our initial bond that way.
Cool. And I believe that your bond actually grants you a benefit as well. I believe you guys share a spell.
It does.
Tell me a little bit about that.
It was very hard for Maurice to kind of get magic. This was prior to him becoming a member of the Order of the Weavers. And one of the things that he learned with Kyrrie's help was this spell called Dream Study, which allows us to set out the materials that we want by our bedside, and instead of dreaming that night, we can study and read.
Yes. And I think, much to the converse of Maurice, I think Kyrrie took to magic again instantaneously. Although coming from her sort of more scientific, linguistic background in the Gray, I think she for a long time tried to do science as opposed to doing magic, and found that it didn't have quite the effect in the Actuality that she would have expected. But, I do think this spell was something that initially she gravitated to, and she tried to help Maurice with, I think, in terms of them learning it together, and this being one of their first forays or true entrances back into the world of magic and the Actuality.
Cool. Absolutely. And I think this is the point where we kind of decide what the Desideratum is. So let me kind of pull up my guidebook here. And I believe there are a few things that essentially we can kind of choose here in terms of what people will want. Let me do a find here. Okay. So, once all the bonds are set, the group works together what they need to start the game. So in this case, we have a few things that we can choose from, and those things are money. The group needs money as in interested in work or a scheme that will earn them a substantial amount. Power. The group recognizes that to achieve its goals, everyone must become more magically adept or get their hands on some kind of magical aid. Information. The group needs information. They seek answers, ideas, or just knowledge to start off their story. Allies. The group needs the assistance of others more powerful than themselves. Travel. The group needs to go somewhere to get what they want. And finally, altruism. The group needs to help someone. This could be general altruism, we're looking to help those in need, or more likely, they have a specific person or group in mind. So, bearing that in mind, what do you guys think? What are you guys leaning towards?
Information, I think.
Yeah.
My roommate needs help and needs to find out more.
Nice.
Well, as a librarian, information comes extremely naturally to me. So I'm all about the search for knowledge.
Cool.
I like information. It's tasty.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's where Gav's at
You
too.
would think.
Trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like that was kind of going to be the case. All right. So we have figured out what you guys want in terms of the Desideratum. And I think, yeah, essentially, information is probably going to be a byproduct of what your adventures kind of produce. So we'll keep that in mind as we continue. We're at 6 p.m. right now, and what we're going to do is, because this is kind of an introductory episode, and you know what we're going to do is we're going to take a 5 or 10 minute break, and from there we are going to start with our story opening on Twigg in the Gray. So stay tuned. And welcome back. So, we are now going to begin what is called narrative mode. Again, another really great feature of this game is that it has 3 very distinct storytelling modes, and one of which is narrative mode, where time moves in a matter of days or hours. There is action mode, where action moves according to a few seconds per round, much akin to kind of how combat works in D&D. And finally, there is what's called narrative mode, or actually, development mode, which happens over the course of days, sometimes weeks, months, or years. And so, what we do when we begin narrative mode is we start with a turn of the card from the Sooth deck to represent the flow of magic. So I'll do that now. And our first card is the Looming Shade.
That sounds great and totally not ominous at all.
Ghosts and spirits lurk everywhere. Most never interact with mortals. Some shades, however, prey upon mortals, looking to feast upon their fear, their flesh, or their very souls. The Looming Shade is almost certainly such a danger. It is terrifying, but it's not just idle fear. The threat is real. The best possible outcome you can hope for is that it's not a horror that appears now, but is yet to come. So perhaps you can prepare for it. But readying for the unseen is always difficult. Even forewarned, how do you expect the unexpected? Which I think is a really great way to start, as kind of terrifying as it is. And in terms of game narrative, an unexpected threat arises. So, with that in mind, Twigg, where are you in Detroit right now?
Right now,
Mm-hmm.
currently sitting in a bar waiting because I, like a good supporter of the arts, show up to bands for the opening band for all shows because I'm a good human being. So I'm sitting at a bar drinking tequila and I don't know, something fucking shit, what's a shitty beer, rolling around. Don't sue me.
Okay. Yeah, what was that? So you're drinking a Rolling Rock. You're in the middle of. So describe this venue. What is it like?
It's a pretty divey joint. It's a old 3-story converted brick building, kind of probably in like Forest Hills section of Detroit, which is kind of like close to the. I have no idea what it was like in the 80s, but hey, yeah. So Twigg is he's just cozied up to the bar, or they are cozied up to the bar. Big ass leather jacket. Just generally trying to avoid trouble. Waiting for that opening band.
Nice.
Place is pretty packed. It's kind of crowded, but you know, I've been here plenty of times. So,
Right. So how chummy are you with people in the Detroit punk scene at this point?
known quantity, but kind of quiet. Like I never really I'm not a musician, so but I'm known to provide things to people. Yeah, experience enhancing substances.
You're a purveyor of experience, maybe.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that you're kind of sitting at the bar. There's kind of a half-hearted mosh pit going around as this band is doing its best to ape Black Flag and probably not succeeding. I think they're
they are not.
Yeah, they're in the middle of trying to do a rallying cry Rise Above or something, and it's just kind of falling flat on his face. There are some people that are really amped up in the pit, though.
I know why they're amped up. Yeah, so right now I'm not in the pit as of yet. I reserve that for good performances. Not that I'm still out here clapping politely and just raise my can of shitty beer as a salute, because that's what you do.
Yeah, and I think as you do that, a flash of green catches your eye. And it's kind of one of those moments where the light falls on a particular person across a crowded bar or a semi-crowded punk venue, and
do tell.
There is across from you an Amazon of a woman, probably has to be at least 6 feet tall. She has this upright, bright neon green mohawk, and seems fairly muscular, and she's wearing a shirt that is basically being kind of is one kind of long chainmail of bobby pins.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, and she's kind of starting to make way across the bar and towards the pit. And I think at this point she kind of looks over, sees you, and makes eye contact with you from your spot at the bar, and she gives you a wink.
Do I know her?
You have no idea. You have never seen this woman before.
Finger guns.
I mean, same. That's a mood.
And there.
It was great having everybody.
This has all been a setup for that. We're done here.
So basically you do the finger guns, and I think she gives you kind of a half smile And there's very clearly a look where she looks at Twig, and I think that the thing that sticks out in your head that she's trying to say to you with just her eyes is try harder, jackass. And she kind of inclines her head towards you, towards the pit, and kind of motions like you should follow.
I'm gonna slam a shot of tequila and that I've been kind of holding back on, and then mediocre pit.
All right, and yeah, so you start moving towards the pit, and that's when a friend stops you right in the middle. You have probably a couple of friends in the punk scene at this time, and what are their names, just off the top of your head?
Chill Phil, Aggie.
And Abby?
Aggie. It's
Aggie.
2 G's. Mm-hmm. And you would think I would be able to pull a third one right out of my ass, but hey. And I don't know. Dirty Ron.
Did you say Dirty Ron?
Are they pirates or punks?
Why not both?
All
Punk
right.
pirates.
Punk pirates.
So Dirty
I
Ron,
played that RPG.
the punkiest pirate. Dirty Ron has got this one tattooed hand on your chest, kind of like standing in between you and the girl with the green hair. And he says, Twig, you gotta help, man. And he's, his tattoos are such that like it looks like he kind of drew them on, but he did it with like like basically he took a tattoo needle to himself. They're just done really sloppily, kind of slapdash. And he's just looking at you like dead in the eyes and just, you gotta help, man. They're beating the hell out of Aggie. They're beating the hell out of Aggie. We need to get out there, man.
All right. I immediately drop everything and I'm just like, all right.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're about to head out to the dance floor, and then you just kind of abruptly start going to the back.
Oh yeah, no, it's like as soon as he's just like, we get, they're beating the hell out of Aggie. All right. And now we're off this way.
Nice. All right.
About face Ricochet.
Yeah, and so like you guys stride with a purpose. And Dirty Ron, the very first thing is just like, fucking skinheads, man. I don't know how they got in. We gotta, we gotta represent. We gotta show them they're not allowed here, man.
So I'm gonna definitely take off my jacket and like throw it behind the bar. It's cool. I'm a known quantity. Yeah. I can do that.
Awesome.
Fuck these guys.
Yeah.
It's outside, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. What was it? You slam open the back door of the venue. The door ricochet. It just slams hard into the brick wall, and Dirty Ron kind of like first thing he does is walk out, like just puffed up, looking large, and then you follow, and right immediately.
Dirty Ron's like 5 feet tall, by the way.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like how tall is Twig?
5'8".
All right. Okay, so you head out there, and immediately you see 3 or 4 of these assholes with goose stepping boots, black laces, but one of them's got red laces, and they're wearing white shirts with the sleeves cut off, and 2 black suspenders, and what look like to be like these creased pants, and the one with the red laces is kicking the ribs of Aggie. What do you do?
Is there a brick nearby, or like I don't know, something?
Easy enough.
Yeah, we're thinking.
Yeah.
No.
Legend.
Yeah, I pick up a brick.
And I was gonna say, Dirty Ron had the same thing. He was carrying a beer bottle. You hear it crack and shatter against the brick wall, and Dirty Ron says, "Hey, fuckers, we interrupting a bad time?" And he immediately moves forward.
All right.
Who do you go for? There's 3 or 4 of these guys.
Whoever's the biggest.
Yeah, that's the red laces.
I'm gonna pitch a brick at his head.
Awesome. Give me an accuracy roll.
All right. So that is just a straight D10.
Yeah. Straight D10. And let me see. Yeah, you can spend your accuracy bene. So I'm also going to kind of explain how action works. We're switching to action mode, so things are going to happen in rounds, which means that I get to turn another card. So yeah. And, oh wow, this is another kind of ominous one. Ghostly presence. We all have our ghosts. They haunt us, both metaphorically and, of course, literally. We can become weighed down by our past sins, our unrequited feelings, our unresolved issues. As humans, we crave closure, but is such a thing ever truly possible? The ghostly presence suggests that it is not. There's always something from our past that will rise later to remind us of the wrongs of long ago. So, with that being said, oh, hold on. Wrong window there. So with that being said, you take the brick and you chuck it, and now every character has a set of qualities that belong to either certes or qualia. And certes are your physical attributes, and they represent a large pool of what are known as bene. And qualia are all of your mental attributes. So when you use certes benes, you can augment what is called the venture of a challenge. Now, the way this works is when you roll a d10, from 0 to 9 represents the kind of a level of skill that you're bringing to bear, but that is augmented by what are known as bene and venture. And venture are your natural talents coupled with the influence of things like magic and bene. So in order to augment his attack against this skinhead, Twigg is going to have to spend a bene of accuracy. Now, bene of accuracy can be either how hard you hit, or it can be just how accurately you hit. So, Twigg, would you like to spend a bene in order to augment your venture?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that bene of accuracy to try to peg a skinhead in the head.
Hell
with a
yeah.
brick.
That's
like
Hell yeah.
that's like
Hell yeah.
that's the title of my sex tape.
Do you have any skills that would augment your attack here?
Let's see here. Not even a little bit.
Okay. So I'm gonna say that, hurled at this guy's head, this is a challenge 3. With your bene of 1, what we do is we subtract the venture from the challenge, and that number is, as long as it's above a 0, is what you need to roll. So in this case, you are subtracting 1 from 3. So your challenge is now 2. So in order to hit this guy with the brick, you're going to have to roll at least a 2 on your 10-sided die.
Okay. Cool. That's a 4.
Hey, all right. So you peg this guy, and you peg him hard with the brick. It's about 3 points of damage. And so the very first thing that happens is it knocks him off of Aggie. And the other guys turn their attention to you. And Ron reaches in to go with the bottle, and Aggie starts getting up. How big is Aggie?
About my height. About 5'8", 5'9".
All right. So we are going to. All right. So we're going to do one more round of this, and we're going to turn another card.
All right.
So they're starting to tangle, and in the fray, it is a mix of bodies, and people essentially just kind of mixing it up real quick. And that's when, something about the air changes. There's something like a tinge in your vision. You feel something. You feel the exhilaration of the fight, sure. You feel the adrenaline hitting your body, but you feel something else. Something distant. Something kind of quiet inside of you. And the card that I turned is the Watcher, a parental figure, sight, alertness, observation, knowledge. The wisdom that comes from taking the time to observe and contemplate before acting cannot be overstated. The Watcher watches, he observes from afar. Assessing and contemplating, he records what he sees and analyzes the data. He remains ever vigilant from his vantage point. Nothing slips by his eternal gaze. The sovereign of mysteries, the Watcher is a father figure. He shares his knowledge with those close to him and advises those he deems worthy. So that actually reminds me, so the way that these cards work is they augment with basically face cards, and they also augment the currents of magic. And these are unique to, these currents are unique to everyone's heart. In this case, I don't believe that you belong to mysteries, rats, mirrors, or stone, do you?
Nope, I am secrets, ravens, and books.
Right. But nevertheless, somebody you feel at the back of your head is watching. So I want you to make... so at this point, I think Red Laces gets up, and he tries to brain you with his fist. So I'd like you to make a dodge roll.
Did not take that character option. Cool. All right. What am I trying to beat?
You are trying to you're trying to roll at least a 3 unless you want to spend a physicality bene.
I will not.
Okay.
False. That's a 1.
All right.
Oh no.
So you get punched, and you're going to take 1 injury from this guy's fist. You've been hit harder, and this guy, you know, even though he's like kind of like the de facto leader of the group, this guy is still a skinny skinhead poser. You've taken better from better people, and so you take 1 point of damage. Now it's important to note that when you take damage in the Invisible Sun, you incur 3 damage incurs a wound. Now, if at any point, unless they have some sort of secret or some kind of magical spell that allows the characters to have that much more wounds available, 3 wounds will kill outright a player character. So you kind of like, you feel the punch, it hits you and it nicks your lip, and you cut your teeth. You cut your lip with your teeth, I should say, and you start feeling kind of the blood dripping on your lip, and you're ready for more. You're ready to fight, and that's when you feel the barrel against the back of your head. And again, that tinge of magic, that tinge of something is there. You feel it now urging. It's almost like a heartbeat. It's something, it's like a second heartbeat you didn't know you had. And you hear a gravelly voice behind you that says, "So good to see you, Twig. I guess I'll be seeing you soon, won't I?" What do you do?
I'm gonna take this opportunity to spit blood in the face of the Nazi that just punched me.
Yes,
And then try to drop to the ground.
All right, so I want you... All right, so here's the interesting thing. I need you to make a withstand roll.
Ooh. I don't know what that is.
So, withstand is essentially... Or actually, this would be resist. You can use physicality. And basically, so you can... When you're defending from an attack, you can dodge, withstand, or resist. Dodging would be to avoid an attack altogether, so something like a projectile, something that's firing at you. Withstand,
I mean, technically.
Tactically.
No, I said technically.
Yeah, technically.
I mean, if somebody's about to shoot me in the back of the head, I kind of don't want to stand still.
But that's the fun
Historically speaking, that's bad.
So here's the thing. Your body wants to drop to the ground and move quickly, but you find that some force is holding it there.
Oh, rude.
And I need you to make a withstand roll.
Fuck.
Or rather, not a withstand, a resist roll.
Resist roll.
You can use Spene, but also you can use Sortilege.
Oh, yeah, no, let's jam some fucking sortilege up in here.
The challenge is 7.
Yikes.
And you have to get that on 2 dice.
Good luck, buddy.
All right. Challenge is
May the
7.
dice be with you.
Yeah. So I'm jamming sortilege, and so because I use sortilege, I have to beat it on both.
Yeah, you
Or I
have to
get-
beat. You need 2 successes. You are being so. Sometimes, and this is for the audience. Sometimes what happens when you are the subject of a magical effect, you have to basically use magic in order to resist it. And the way you use magic in this game, you can be a standard spell will give you 1 die. But sometimes magic will give you the ability to transcend the limits of, normal physical limits. So in this sense, you would need maybe multiple successes in order to defend from magic. And that's what's happening here. You are being held by this unknown force. Your legs, your body is not behaving. You need 2 successes in order to avoid this shot that's coming.
Not trying to go limp and having it not work is a very disconcerting feeling.
Yeah. How'd you do?
That's a 3 and an 8.
3 and an 8. All right.
Yeah.
So I think what happens, and by the way, which was it? Was it the magic die that got the 8, or was it the physical die?
The magic die was the red one, so that was the 8, and
Yeah.
the physical die was the 3.
And so this is what happens, is you feel something, an essence of something return to you. You feel like that heartbeat, it's starting to force the feeling back into your hands as it's basically kind of like fighting through a night terror, or trying to fight through kind of like sleep overtaking your body. You feel paralyzed, but you can make these kind of movements of your muscles, and you turn your head in time to see this kind of blank-faced expression looking back at you. And I say blank-faced, I mean it's literally a blank face. And in the corner of your eye, you see the girl with the green hair reaching out, yelling, "Twigg!" And then everything goes black as you hear the report of a gunshot. And that's when we cut to Kyrrie.
Twig is dead. Long live Twig.
I wouldn't do you like that, man. We cut to Kyrrie. You're in the middle of your office in the library, I imagine. What are you doing?
Well, probably what I'm doing, or where you'd find me at this day, is going through a few lexical double checks of some citations of a paper. I'm a little upset at the moment that a rival of mine has published something before I have, and so I'm just a little bit irritated. So starting the day out on quite an irritable note, I'm writing a strongly worded letter about something that I think slipped out at a party after too many drinks that I didn't want to be at to begin with, which was pertaining to this research. And then suddenly, a few weeks later, this appears in a published journal, something that is clearly derivative of that same kernel of an idea. Not clear that.
So, as you're composing the letter, you can't help but notice that all the letters that you're writing, they're hard to read. There's something about them. You can't read them. Why is that?
Why is that? Sit back in my chair. That
And I
shouldn't
think
happen.
at this point you look up at the what does the engine look like? Like what does it look
Metalex
like when it's in
engine.
action?
So imagine between an old time cash register and a giant calculator. So instead of having the little buttons that ding up prices and the big buttons that shoot out the drawer, you have whirring letters, all 26 of them from the English alphabet, which Kyrrie is most comfortable in. And so effectively, when the Metalex engine is processed, those letters are consistently whirring based on the inputs that you select with the key selves. And there's almost this current of magic, not quite ether, but feels like a tangible current running through the top of the engine that actually stirs the movement of the different plaques.
Cool. And so those letters begin forming something you haven't really seen before. It's forming a sentence. And it says,
Okay.
yeah, have you ever seen any, like, what does the output kind of like look like? Is it like, does it form like a cohesive sentence? What does it typically tell you?
Usually the Metalex engine, it inputs and logs words that you put in. Sometimes it can spit out reams of paper. So if there's something that's supposed to be computated, if you're putting in a word and you're trying to transcribe it into another language, it will put out the word in that, the language you're trying to get into. But if you're trying to log something for the overall catalog or the record, it just logs that internal in sort of a memory, if you would, of what you're putting in and out.
All right. So you've been typing in this strongly worded letter, and the Metalex engine is whirring, and it begins outputting a sheet, a long kind of scroll. And emblazoned on the sheet, in small type, millions of times, is a single phrase, 2 words: help them, help them, help them, over and over and over. And where did you last put your hand mirror?
My hand mirror is, I believe, in the drawer, bedroom, the night table, top drawer.
Well, for whatever reason, the hand mirror's out. It's by the Metalex engine. What do you do?
I pick it up and I look into it.
And so you're looking, and you see your reflection plain as day. But a moment later, you think you see something in the background of your reflection, like a quick flash of movement. What do you do?
Would I have ever seen this before?
Not here. This is kind of your sanctum, isn't it? How often do you get visitors?
Almost never. Almost never.
Almost never. What do you do?
Never. I focus in on the movement. Can I determine a shape?
Are you kind of rotating the mirror? Or what are you looking behind you? What do you do? How are you kind of locating it?
So the mirror, I think I'd have about this close to my and you see I see the movement in the back of my reflection, but it's quick, yes?
Mm-hmm. And as you kind of twist the mirror, you have that kind of not parallax, what is the effect when a mirror bounces off of the reflection of another? Where it kind of looks like it's endless.
Yeah, it's a reflection of a reflection.
Yeah. You very clearly see a mirror behind you that's reflecting back into your compact, your hand mirror.
And this mirror was never there before.
Yeah, it wasn't there before.
I don't like it.
Are there any implements on my desk nearby?
Yeah, I mean, do you have anything like kind of like what do you typically carry with you?
Something maybe sharp or something that blunt?
Absolutely. Yeah, is it kind of like you know what? It's probably like an implement that you use to reset the engine. Like a rod or a dowel or something like that.
So I'm going to very carefully put down the hand mirror on my desk.
Okay.
And then I'm going to make as though I'm going back to writing, but very subtly and carefully place my hand on the object to my right.
Okay.
And then what I would like to do is, with a very swift movement, all one fluid swing, turn around me and smash the mirror behind me.
Okay. I would like you to make me an accuracy roll. This, I think in this case, it is... Yeah, you know what? It's you resist, like kind of like putting up against the friction of resistance that the mirror is offering. So this is really just to see whether or not you're shattering it. So let's say level 2.
Okay. So I have 3 accuracy bene.
Okay.
I also have a skill in magical lore. I don't know if that would apply here, but I do know things about mirrors.
Absolutely. All right.
So
yeah, I'll give you
could
one.
I
You say you
apply
know
my
much about
magical
them?
lore skill? I do know much about mirrors.
All right. Yeah, so, okay, let's add 1 to your venture, and then let's add the bene.
Okay.
So you clear the venture exceeds the challenge, reduces it to 0. You bring the dowel around in a quick fluid motion, and you smash the mirror. And it kind of, it pitifully kind of falls off of the wall behind you and kind of slams into the ground and falls forward, shattering into dozens of pieces.
Good God, these mirror viruses. Ugh, so annoying. Ugh, every day. It is one hazard, I suppose, of having a hand mirror being my artifact from the show. Guess I just have to put up with it.
And
They think they can sneak up on me, though. Can't.
do you turn around?
I do.
The wall in front of the Metalex engine is covered in mirrors. And your foot,
Time to leave.
your foot scrapes against one. And you look down, and the floor, except where you're standing, is covered in mirrors. And before you can see it, before you can react, a pair of shadowy hands reach up and they attempt to pull you through.
Ooh.
And I'd like you to make a dodge roll, if you would.
Sure.
Challenge level 8, and I need 2 successes.
Yikes.
Oh boy. So rolling 2 die here. For a dodge roll, I would spend movement. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, so I'd like to spend one of my certies.
Okay. So, actually, the way I believe Sortilege works is you can't spend any additional benes. Am I right, guys, on that? Yeah. I think I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I
you
think
just need
it's
to spend
only
1 Sortilege.
1. Yeah. Okay. Well, so is it sortilege because magic related, or is it movement? Because
This
it's
is a
dodge?
magical kind of pull.
Okay. So sortilege it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I need 2 successes over what amount?
8.
Oof.
Yeah.
So we have a 7 and an 8.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh.
So, I think, because this is such kind of like a close failure, I think what happens is you immediately realize something. And was it the magical die that was the 8?
Yeah.
Okay. So you realize something very quickly, which is this is a dream. Or at least it has something of the qualities of the dream. So you don't necessarily feel like you're in danger. And I think that if you believed that it was, as real as you were worried it was, you would incur mental damage. But because you understand the very nature of that reality, you just skirt by the damage, and you kind of give in as these shadowy hands pull you through the mirror like it's a pool of water.
Lucid dreaming.
Maurice, what are you doing?
What time of day is
So yeah, what time of day is it?
Well, I'm imagining if I'm engaged with a very talkative Lacuna, that I'm too polite to leave the conversation, who's just like talking at me, and I'm going, oh, very interesting.
Ooh. Sorry guys, I was just trying to make that a little bit more loud, and that is too much gain. So we're gonna go back to 44 decibels.
Who's got the ambulance?
I think
think
that's,
it might
Right over here.
I think that's probably me.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're having
There's
a
always ambulance somewhere.
so you're having a very kind of talkative conversation with this Lacuna. So, you know, is this a Lacuna that you know?
Yes. We this, let's see, the location that it has is always changing. So, and it's on the route that I regularly walk. So I always comment, you know, I say a friendly word about you know, the very green hills that he's shown.
Yeah, and so for the stream, what a Lacuna is essentially they are a person-shaped portal to a completely different world. They look like person-shaped holes in reality. And what Lacuna are they're another kind of like of the more populous inhabitants of the Actuality. Oftentimes, if you want to travel someplace very quickly, and your friends with Lacuna, they will typically charge, you know, a number of crystal orbs, which is the currency in Satyrine, to get you to that place. Or if they don't like you very much, they will send you someplace that they don't like. Or someplace that's just inconvenient for you, depending on how well you tick them off. And so, yeah, so you're just kind of having this conversation, and what are you talking about?
They're kind of going on and on about the like particularities of this place that I commented on. This green place, talking about all the flora and all the fauna and who they saw there and the nearest town. And you know, I'm maybe waiting politely to ask him, maybe I think this Lacuna is a vendor that I regularly buy pipe tobacco from. So I'd like to conclude the transaction, but I'm very patiently listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you are reaching down to get your wallet out, and you know, oh yeah, the green hills, the green expanses, oh, just absolutely lovely. Oh, you can find so much in the way of weeds and flowers. And droning kind of continues on for a little bit, and then it begins to, you just kind of like, as you're bringing out your wallet and you're kind of like undoing your pouch and grabbing a handful of orbs, glass orbs, I think, because it's you know, pipe tobacco. You see a hand reaching out and grab your wrist, and it's the hand of Lacuna, but it's not a green meadow or hill that you can see through its silhouette. You see a roiling mass of blue, like pools of blue, just kind of almost like a lava lamp, like these substances kind of breaking apart and coming back in, these abstract non-Euclidean shapes kind of forming these fluid kind of almost like liquid shapes. And you
So I startle a bit, and I follow the hand. What's it attached to?
It's attached to the Lacuna, but there seems to be these two burning white eyes looking back at you. And you know for a fact that the Lacuna, you never see their eyes. And this is unusual. And it says, they need your help. You have to go now. Now.
Well, where?
And the Lacuna grabs you by the lapels. What do you do?
I don't resist. I'm waiting to see if I'm being pulled in.
Mhm.
Maybe I can go now with this thing. I'm
Yeah. And it pulls you close to its chest, and then almost like like being sucked through a vacuum, or kind of like a vacuum tube of some sort, like, or almost like you're going through a mail tube. You get pulled through the lacuna, and you find yourself falling through endless expanses of blue, just beautiful abstract shapes. You think in the very distance you see all these kind of, and you've read about this, you've heard about this, you know, you are on the outskirts of the blue sun, where dreams go, where future is to be found. And not only that, in the distance you see all these strange sights that are more akin to something that you would write about in one of your books. And in this case, instead, what you're seeing are things like a massive fuselage of an airplane. You see a man kind of wandering through in a tweed jacket with a derby drawn tight, far off in the distance, and he looks in your direction as you continue to fall. You see a Jack-in-the-Box with a kind of a demonic-looking clown kind of seesawing in and out of the box itself. You see a number of just kind of like nightmarish, but also dreamlike qualities. You see a woman who seems to loom over the entire area, just below the beating blue of a giant sun above you. And she dreams floating in the middle of the air. What do you do as you fall?
I take a closer look at the woman. Would I roll maybe a perception?
Absolutely. Give me a perception roll. This one is a 7. You do not need magic or sortilege to succeed.
So I one bene at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll spend one, so I'm rolling for a 7.
And what other skills do you have about kind of, what other skills do you have that might be able to augment your challenge?
So I can understand or quantify or identify magic that lies outside of codified practices like spells, rituals.
Absolutely, I think this qualifies. So let's take 2 away from your challenge, and I believe that's a 5 now.
Okie dokie. That is a 0.
Oh, okay. So what happens is, as you fall, and so when you're rolling a 10-sided die, we're not interested in the 10, unfortunately. 10 in this case is actually 0, because we're using the single digit die. And a 0, now it's not necessarily a critical failure, it's still a failure. But you know what? I am going to do a GM shift. I think that you have no idea who this is. You haven't been to the Blue Sun. You know vaguely where you are, but you've never seen this woman before. But you do seem to realize that she's familiar to you, that you know her, if not in actual acquaintance and knowing, you feel as though you have met her before. And I'm going to give you a point of joy as you realize that she means well to you.
I reach out mentally as well as physically with my voice and say hello.
And I think a kind of a dreamy kind of quality of voices. Hello. I have not given you permission to enter my world.
I beg your pardon. I was brought here. Where am I?
You are in my home, the home of the Blue Sun. Outside of the deep dreams You are on its outskirts. But I know you. I know of you.
You know me?
Yes. Yes.
Who
I'm-
who are you?
I am the gatekeeper of the blue. But you should know that. You have passed here before. While you do not have permission now, I am very well aware of your passings.
So what does Maurice know about the blue?
The blue is is a world of dreams, of potential and possibilities. It is a
Do I
world that would be.
do I know the gatekeeper?
No. Not as far as you know. And as you're kind of pondering that knowledge, I think that the dreamer kind of turns in her sleep. And you hear, "You have business, I can tell."
Yeah, helping
"I will see
somebody
you
now."
soon." She doesn't
Wait,
She doesn't listen, and you fall again.
I'm still looking around. Do I see a ground coming up to reach me? I don't think I feel like I'm in any immediate danger. I think I'm kind of taking it all in.
No, but you feel as though your descent begins after a few seconds to slow as you descend. And off in the distance, in the expanse below you, you see a winged figure. And we're going to cut to Gav. Gav, what are you doing? What do you dream about?
Oh, so I'm asleep now?
Yeah.
Okay. I think my dreams as of now are very, very jumbled. I think most often I have vague recollections. I'm back home with my parents. Tonight, I think there's like a bit of a shift. I remember my two friends in my particular unit right before everything kind of went sideways. And at the same time, I think that there's this weird contrast that's going on between this very, very cold, wintry place and something in the distance, almost like I'm in a weird reverse oasis, like little patch of winter surrounded by desert and heat and sun, and I start slowly somehow walking away from all of them, even though I'm not trying to walk away from them. It just seems that's the direction that I'm going in. And there are like, and then the scenes like shift. It gets like incredibly like tropical, and there are places that I don't quite recognize, and it starts really becoming abstract from here because I can't quite put shapes together. I think it's like a blend of reds and yellows and oranges, very extreme, bright colors. And I can't quite place it, but I feel like I'm okay here, even though I can't put this together in my brain.
Okay. And so, yeah, no, you're walking. And the members of your unit, who were they? Which ones?
It's probably my two friends, Masha and Galina.
Okay. And you hear Masha's voice as you begin walking. Yes. "Where are you going? Where are you going? We have so much to do. Where are you going?" And the voice seems to change over time. It gets older, huskier. And it seems very soft and gentle and very matronly. Where are you going, Gavriel? Where are you going?
I don't know. I am not going anywhere.
And I believe that's when we hear something. You hear something else in your mind. You hear,
Where are you going, Gavriel?
Where does it sound like it's coming from?
it seems like it's coming from inside you, for lack of a better word.
I don't know. I don't even know how I got here.
We are needed, Gavriel. All of us.
For what?
And the voices begin kind of building a chorus inside the dream.
We are needed. They must be helped.
Who must be helped? What do you want from me?
And that's when you hear another voice. One more threatening, more authoritative.
Protect. Serve. And protect.
What do you do?
I think I reach for my rifle, which is usually at my back, but is it there?
In the dream? Oh,
Yeah.
certainly.
Absolutely. I take it out and I'm like trying to aim it, but of course there's nobody there.
And you hear behind you what seems like the rustle of footsteps. What do you do?
I immediately get ready to fire.
And you turn.
Yep.
You see standing in front of you, arms up. Whoa! Who do you think you're firing at? It's Nikolai.
God! Nikolai, you scared the fuck out of me. Is everything like suddenly shifted back into Russia? Is like, have I
Absolutely.
lost all the colors?
I mean, I was going to say, is this the battlefield? Where would this be?
Yeah, I imagine we're like right by our base.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Did you hear something?
no. What would I hear out here? There's nothing but us. Tovarish.
There are suddenly all these voices asking for help, for protection. You didn't hear any of that.
No. I heard none of that. You...
I have to stop taking those late night shifts.
No. There is so much, though, that we need to do. So much that we should...
Protect.
And... what was it? I think that at this point, you know, Nicola's eyes are bright, shining gold. What do you do? They're effulgent. They seem to burn with the gold light.
Yeah, I don't think that's Nikolai. Just a guess.
Serve,
I think I-
Gavriel. Serve.
What do you do?
Whatever you are, I don't serve you.
Okay.
And I fire.
All right. Make a accuracy attack.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Your challenge is level 7.
Okay. And for my sake, because I keep forgetting,
Mhm.
I can only add 1 bene to that. So what is the subtraction to this? Do I match it up with my automatic stats, or is it
I think
what
so.
I add to the roll?
So you do have your shadow skill is marksmanship.
It's already
So-
2.
So, by the way, everybody gets a shadow memento and a shadow skill. And in this case, your shadow skill is something that you've been doing long enough that you have level 2 skill in it. And in this case, because you're a sniper, you have 2 levels in marksmanship. However, I'm going to give you 1 vex because you're at close range with a
Yikes.
kind of a very long range weapon.
Okay.
So you are going to take your Bene and your 2 augment, and you're going to reduce it from a 3 to a 2. So now I just
Okay.
need you to roll a 4.
That is a 9
All right. And that's a very palpable
on
hit
the dice.
indeed. And you fire the weapon. And the report of it goes off as you've kind of slammed the cartridge into the chamber following it, but preceding the report. Your fire, it hits true, but when it does, you feel this horrible sensation in the pit of your chest where the hole is, and I need you to take 1 mental damage
Oof.
as you are knocked back by not the recoil, but the actual attack of the strike. And you find yourself falling back and back from the gray of the battlefield through the blue expanse of the Courts of Dreaming. And you can begin to fall. And we're going to cut back to Twigg. Twigg, things are dark.
Yes.
Things are black.
Metaphorically or literally?
Huh?
Metaphorically or literally?
Yeah, metaphorically. Let's go with that. So, I think this deserves another turn of the card.
Wait. Don't care.
Ah, there we go. Hold on. I gotta open that in a new window.
So cool, though.
The Doctor. Doctors help, but it's a help we'd rather not need. No one wants to see a doctor. We only see them if something's gone frighteningly wrong. They have knowledge, perhaps secret knowledge, and an insight few can match. But these are secrets about disease and death. Can one delve so deeply into such topics and not come out affected? The Doctor is the nemesis of the Visions family. This enigmatic, genderless figure is a harbinger of illness and plague. But the possibility of succor or even remedy from the disease they foretell. There is an inherent contradiction to the Doctor then. They are the hero that we really do not want. So, in terms of game narrative, someone falls ill, a plague threatens. A powerful NPC relies upon another for their survival. An NPC consults wise advisors, or people search for a remedy to some widespread affliction. But in this case, is the path of joy. The PC recovers from illness or injury. Someone knowledgeable provides aid to the PC. And that's that you hear the darkness. You hear the susurrus of it. You hear the sliding of snake serpentine scales, of some sort of animal moving in the darkness beyond your brain. And you feel the grasp of something around you begin to constrict. But after a few moments, after a few long, achingly long moments, that constriction gives way to a gentle embrace, and the darkness in your vision becomes tinged with blue light, brighter and brighter, until it's so bright that it fills your closed eyelids and you're forced to open them. And you look into the beatific face of what look to be 6 bright white eyes in kind of this silhouette. And you are enfolded with 6 blue wings that shine. What do you do?
Whoa. Do I feel threatened?
No, this is actually probably the greatest you've ever felt. The most safe you've felt in a long time, being homeless in the streets of Detroit. Yeah, absolutely. You feel safe.
Cool. Then I must hang out for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I guess what else is around me? Can I see outside of this these enfolding wings?
Yeah, you are, basically surrounded on all sides by what feels like a giant blue expanse. It's unknown where you are exactly. You don't get a sense of it, but it feels familiar to you, but not like of it. Maybe in passing, maybe in dreams. But you've never been here before.
Huh. I guess Twigg's gonna just be like, "Hey there, what's up, big guy?" And just see if there's any response to just like.
Absolutely. And so we hear another voice. And she says,
So, she sent me to you. Our goddess, our queen. The heart of the invisible sun. You have lost your way. Chris Twigg. Vislae has called her children home, and you are long overdue.
Fucking what?
and there's just this kind of sense of kindness in her voice as the 6 wings begin to flutter around you. And at which point you are already in her embrace, and she brings her right arm close to you. And she says,
Take my hand, that you might remember what you have lost. At least some piece of it.
There's a little bit of hesitation, but I mean, I feel safe.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is warmth and the cold food when you've haven't eaten in 3 days, kind of. So I will reach out and I will take its hand.
Absolutely. And as you take her hand, every cell... Oh, it looks like I got the reverb here. Oh, every cell in your body feels alive all at once. And it is an empowering feeling. A feeling of strength, a feeling of knowledge and safety, but also a sense of purpose, a sense of being. And you remember magic. And that feeling is like being born and dying hundreds of times in the single span of a moment. And it fills your body with exhilaration, with excitement, with fear and an anticipation. And Gav, Maurice, and Kyrrie, as you fall through the blue. You feel it too, like a ripple waving out. And you know that feeling. You know that feeling because that was the feeling that you had of feeling magic and feeling power and feeling your own inner strength again as you were pulled out of the shadow and back into the actuality. It is a kindred soul that has called you here. And as you descend, you see this Empyreal soul, 6 wings, shrouding a figure in an embrace. And before you know it, the fall stops, and you're all on your feet, and you're standing some measure of distance away from her. What do all of you do?
This motherfucker.
Do we see each other?
Oh yeah, all of you are now in each other's view. You're on the same, like, basically the same playing field.
I immediately fall the fuck over. Just kind of grabbing my chest and just kind of fetal position.
Yeah, as you feel your chest, this one is actually, as you feel your chest, you feel not an abscess or anything like that. It feels like an absence. It feels like, a wound. But it's under your shirt. It's not visible, but you can feel it's there, and you know it's for a long time it's been there. And you feel your head pound and ache as kind of like this migraine kind of forces you back into the actuality.
So Maurice is looking to make eye contact with both of the other people that he knows. But I should mention that my card family is vision, so I believe the nemesis would adversely affect me here.
Oh yeah, in the worst way.
So I'm basically just trying to be like, you know, Kyrrie, you see me? Gavriel, you see me? We're experiencing this together.
Yeah.
With my eyes.
Yeah, what are you guys doing?
I have no idea why I'm here.
So, Kyrrie, having realized previously that she was in a dream, and obviously having fallen through the blue, knowing she was in a dream, she also has become aware that dream logic is in play, and therefore dream physics. How far are we from the Empyreal soul, and how tall does it stand roughly relative to it?
You would say it's almost like, you know how if Maria from Michelangelo's Pietà stood up, she would be 8 to 10 feet tall. It's exactly like that. She's easily 8-10 feet tall.
Okay.
And yeah, so what are you trying to find out?
I would like to speak to her, and I would like to maintain eye contact while doing so. I don't know if that would require me kind of floating off the ground a little bit, but...
All right. What do you say to her?
I presume that you are the originator of the help them message. Is that correct?
Yes, the message was mine.
Can you please be more specific as to your noun choice? What do you mean by them?
And
what she does is she lifts Twigg onto their feet, and she kind of just kind of gives them a gentle kind of pat that kind of spreads the hands across the shoulders and sets you on your feet.
I slowly begin walking over to Twigg and the angel, and
What do you do?
I reach out my hand and to Twigg and say, "Hello, I'm Maurice."
Who? Like,
Maurice.
What the fuck?
It'll all be, I'm sure, more clear in time. What's your name?
Twigg. My name's Twigg.
And
I know that.
I take your hand and give it the old like politician double hand clasp and maybe bring it to your.
When you go to grab my hand, I just kind of like.
So and in that moment, I'm like trying to pull you like up to your feet, and I kind of stumble back.
As you're kind of having this this moment here, and the angel looks distractedly above you, and you hear.
I want to follow that line of sight.
Yeah, and you see what looks to be at a distance a swarm of what looks to be. You can hear a buzzing, but it's not a buzzing. It's kind of like a phrase that's uttered very kind of like in unison, and that's when you hear her say,
"The changing swarm. They followed me here. I have to go. There are others who need my help. You must fight them. You must wake up. You must remember."
And she spreads her wings and she flies straight through the swarm, diverting a bunch of them off. Now, I don't want to kind of like bully you guys and put you on a railroad here. Do you guys do anything before, as she's spreading her wings?
Kyrrie's going to say, "Your name, please."
I have no name. I am the dream of Vislae herself.
Maurice turns to Gavriel, says, "I think it's time to wake up."
And,
Right, you know how to fucking wake up from your own dream?
and
They forgot to teach me that one.
I can try.
And so
I think I'm still shouting for that weird angel as she's like fleeing, just like, wait, take me back.
All right. Okay. So I think
Twig's just over there doing that whole thing, kind of going, "What the
Yeah.
fuck?"
what does the wound look like?
It's just it's kind of looks like just an incision. Like it's pretty clean, it's pretty perfect, but it's just like it looks like it should be bleeding an immense amount, but it's not. And I can feel the shit of like the sides rubbing together, and it's a really discomforting feeling, and it hurts, but like not as much as it probably should. But it's just that movement of your entire chest cavity rubbing against the entire side of all that.
Oh. Good. Okay. Very descriptive. I love that. And then so as you're kind of like pulled aside as you're trying to shouting to the angel, you begin to hear the swarm as it approaches, and it seems to kind of begin to what it does is you hear a phrase, and you hear the phrase, like as they get an earshot, you hear a buzzing sound, and I believe this is it. It sounds something like, "They must never wake up. They must never wake up. They must never wake up. They must never wake up."
Oh boy.
As the buzz kind of just like starts filling your eardrums. And it's very clear that they present an obstacle to you. So I think that we now are moving officially into action mode. And I need you guys to be ready for combat.
Do I still have my gun?
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
What the
All
fuck?
right.
I'm
Do I
like,
still have my
You,
Zach? Do I still have my mirror?
you still have your mirror. All of you, by the way, I know this is Dream Sequence special here, but you all have access to your spells and your ephemera. With the exception of Twig. Twig, you have...
Do I not? Do I have a brick?
You have your brick and you have your spells.
Nice.
You do not have ephemera.
Okay.
All right. Cool. All
Marshall
right,
will
so in doing so, in having that moment, we're gonna flip another card.
What?
All right, and this one is this one's the devil. The
Yikes.
nemesis of secrets is the prince of lies. The devil, of course, there are many devils. Their commonality is their need to corrupt the world around them. Charming, sexy liars that seek to draw mortals into their own evil. Devils don't kill, they talk. They don't destroy, they tempt. The term devil stands apart from demon in that way. A demon is typically a relatively unintelligent engine of violence and destruction. Devils are far more insidious. And so, I think that what this is I think that this is, by the way, this is the nemesis of secrets. So
Tits.
yeah. So basically, you immediately, I think, Twig, you get immediately the sensation that there's something greater at work here. Something found you. And something,
Yeah, no shit, dude.
yeah, there's something conscious about the swarm. There's something familiar about it. And now I need everybody to tell me what they're planning to do for their combat action.
How close are these swarms?
They're some distance away. I'd say they're far.
Ah,
Yeah,
you
so-
would. Well,
Yeah, but you do have a sniper rifle.
I do.
Okay.
Do we know?
All right.
Do we know anything about the swarm? Have we encountered any?
Do we know anything about the swarm? I know I'm going to shoot it.
Why don't Kyrrie, why don't you give me a
Yep.
roll for magical lore? The level of challenge will be 4.
Okay, and I've got 1 skill in magic to begin with, and that's a 7.
Okay. So on a 7, you immediately understand what this is. This has come up in your research and your studies as you kind of like, devoured information about Indigo and about the Suns as you began your studies or your kind of re-studies as a Vance. You understand what this is. These are the changing swarm. They are basically a series of locust-like insects that typically what they do is it's kind of a representation of consensual reality. The idea that in repeating something often enough and loudly enough, they can make it true. And so you know for a fact that over a series of maybe rounds, days, weeks, months, just by repeating something in the blue, they can make it reality. And right now what they're saying is, you will never wake up. You will never wake up. You will never wake up. So you know that. Gav, give me your combat action. What do you do?
All right. Well, let's try to work on waking everybody up. And I will fire at one of them.
Okay. So these
I'm
are
trying to. My goal here is to I know because there's hundreds of them. I want to try to scatter them, or
absolutely
at the very least distract them away from repeating whatever weird shit they're saying.
Perfect. Okay. So let me see. I just need to find that entry. Okay. So they have the ability to essentially dodge at a +3. So sometimes what happens with creatures is typically you're rolling against their level for their challenge. However, sometimes they have additional defenses. And in this case, their defenses are at 7. However, they do not seem to have any magical defenses. So you do not need to use Sortilege in order to attack. So you need to give me a 7 on the die. If you wanted to basically kind of boost the attack with Sortilege, you could do it.
So I can't do it with
absolutely.
accuracy.
Because that will also make your strike magical.
Sortilege will or accuracy will? Sorry, I missed that.
Sortilege.
Yeah, I'll use sortilege to make it magical because I have a cool thing when things get magical.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question about that. Is it only for spells, or is it only if I make an attack magical, or does it have to be the?
It can be.
Hey,
it
there's
can
a
be
lot of questions.
either of those situations. If you are using a spell with kind of like a ranged attack, or kind of any kind of spell attack, or your kind of magically enhancing attack, that applies.
So do these stack? Because if they do, shit's about to get crazy.
I like your moxie.
For
So, what do you have in mind? Tell me what you're thinking.
if I'm just boosting this into a magical attack as sortilege, then what does my telestic strike go into effect?
Well, why don't you describe your apostate ability for me?
So my telestic strike is a fun thing that I have. I get to inflict +2 damage with any weapon attack that is enhanced with magical energies.
Mm-hmm.
That is the very vague description of it, so I'm just curious if this counts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. So give me that roll.
This is fun. Okay. And this is, like, for lack of a better word, this is to see if it hits, not just the damage.
This is just to see if it hits, and then your rifle does 4, your telestic strike does 2. By adding sortilege to it, we can also make it a little bit more devastating or have a magical effect. It just depends if you don't.
What happens?
Yeah.
What happens when you hit the challenge rating?
Oh yeah, no. You push, you succeed. All right. So how'd you do?
So that was exactly a 7.
Nice. So 7. Normally your venture would have been 5. So you actually you hit it easy.
Okay.
All right. So your damage with the telestic strike is 6 magical damage, which is 2 wounds outright.
Yep.
So you seem to. So describe for me what happens when you boost a strike with magic using your sniper rifle.
So I think as I go to as I'm aiming, and right before I pull the trigger, you can sort of see something flow through my arm, as if it's going to, at the same time as I'm pulling the trigger, you see a line of golden magical energy shoot parallel to the sniper rifle's barrel, and it sort of, I would say, be going too fast, but I mean, it would be paralleling the bullet at the same time.
Absolutely.
Almost like there's an arrow of golden light alongside the bullet.
And yeah, so basically that magical bullet, it kind of explodes out like a hollow point in the middle of this changing swarm, and it seems to completely and utterly scatter them. What was it? And that's when you hear one of the angelic voices inside of you say,
"There are more inbound." And
that's when you see a second swarm coming from behind the other one.
Time to wake up! Time to wake up! Let's go!
Yeah. Maurice, what are you doing?
He sees this and says, I want to try something. And he reaches back over to Twigg and says, I'm going to need you to trust me. Have courage. And I'm going to weave together the aspects of wind and heart. So heart with his courage, and the wind with his breath to gasp awake and wake up wherever he is and take him out of the blue right now.
Awesome. I'm going to say for this roll, you know what? This is, I'd say, relatively kind of like low roll. Nothing really is kind of keeping you here. You kind of are beginning to feel awakened. That said, I'm going to say that the challenge rating is going to be a 5. What level is your spell there?
So I think it's to wake a sleeping creature is a level 3. So I'll do that. And yeah, so then I'm rolling 2 or higher.
Yep, absolutely. And describe for me, like, what does it look like when you're weaving these actual magical qualities, these aggregates in the middle of this landscape?
So it's actually quite muted. If wherever his body is, you would see this in color, but in the blue realm, it's actually kind of like a dark shadow of this kind of energy from his chest, expanding and reaching out and kind of coming out through his mouth and nostrils. So here we go.
All right, give me that roll.
That's another 0.
Oh
Oh no! Wait, did you roll? Did you roll with 2 dice? Was that a magical?
I didn't have any dice, so it was just straight.
All right, so I think that basically this magical kind of like force of will on the part of Maurice, it starts kind of suffusing your touch with Twigg, but at the same time, like there's something that just I think that it's almost like a reticence. It's almost like trying to remember how, like, something that's really important about yourself. It's I think you're listening to the swarm too, and I think that you'll never wake up. You'll never wake up. You'll never wake up. And there's something about words that's important to you. There's something you have to remember about, and you just feel really hungry, and it's all too much all at once. That said, Kyrrie, what are you doing?
As a linguist and as a librarian, I think there is something abhorrent to me about the idea of language being used to repeat ideology such that it becomes power, and power which is wielded without consent upon those who hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Zach, in knowing what I know of Swarm and having gleaned that information, would you say possibly that I know the secret name of this type of creature? As secret a name as I can.
Secret name of what thing? The changing swarm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like, I don't know if they have a secret name, but would I know as secret a name as there is?
Well, you know what? I'm going to say what you can do is I think that Gav's shot probably downed one of them. And if you touch it, there's a chance that you can get access to its name. I believe, because that's your ability, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All
So
right.
I'm going to go touch the one that was down.
Oh, Gav is freaking out at that. What the hell are you doing?
And Zach, a little point of order, would that have caused flux, since that was a spell that I was attacking?
Oh yeah, no, that would definitely cause flux. Let me go to my magical effects table.
Oh god.
Kyrrie, why don't you tell me kind of like, okay, so I think that the secret name of the changing swarm, because you've already know this thing, I think that it's probably something that you would definitely pick up. You would definitely, its level, and kind of where it's from and what kind of creature it is. So really the only thing you would be able to pick up is the secret of the secret name of the creature. So what do you do with this information?
So I have a spell which is called Palance Mouthpiece. And this is a 2nd level alpha Vance spell.
Cool.
Which is basically, it allows me to speak through another creature. There's no limit on range, but I must know the secret name of the creature.
Okay.
Or they must be willing, which I'm assuming in this case they are not willing.
They are not.
Yes. No, I figured not. The creature that I speak through can take no actions while I do so, but I can take no action other than the speaking. If they are not within sight, I must use some other means, but in this case, they are within sight. There is a check on this each round, though, to see whether or not it's sustained.
Okay, so you cast this spell, and I think because this is, because this is done hastily, and also because you are trying to affect something other than the creature itself that you're touching. Let's roll a depletion, see if it stays, like just off the bat, like see if it's successful.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, that's a 7.
All right, so it's okay. It doesn't deplete.
Yes, it does not deplete.
Awesome.
Depletion.
Okay. So what do you command these things to do? Just to stop?
No, I switched the message.
Okay.
You will wake up. You will wake up.
Atta girl. All right. All right. So that's the thing is, as you know, kind of you've changed the message and you begin to hear the echo again. You will wake up. 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 Twig, what are you doing? I mean, you're surrounded by strange people. You just met a blue angel that revived you after you got shot in the back of the head. And
I'm like legitimately debating whether I'm on acid, like a really like mixed with something government type shit acid trip.
You know what? It's a possibility.
I mean, fuck. Look at all this shit. But all right. So I've got a brick in my hand. What do these things look like?
I'd say okay. So the way that these things look like, I'm going to pull up their description. It's not good look. It is a swarm of 100 more locusts, each with a human face chanting the same statement over and over again.
No, thank you. Mm-mm, no.
Nah.
Thanks, I hate it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pull a handful of 9-volt batteries out of my pocket.
Okay.
And I'm gonna cast barrage.
All right.
And try to nightmare fucking monstrosities.
And
it's like, and I don't really know what I'm actually doing. I'm just like,
yeah, exactly. It's like Jubilee in X-Men, right?
Yeah, it's the actual spell description is a variety of
aesthetics.
Hand-sized or smaller. I resemble that remark. Or smaller objects around me fly at a nearby target. The target and anyone close suffer damage equal blah 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 blah. Yeah.
All right. So, do me a favor.
What?
Okay.
What's the current Sooth card again?
Current Sooth card is the Devil, and that is your nemesis. So, let's.
Yeah. Well, as an apostate, with my rejection of the testaments of the Sun, I ignore that.
I love it. Awesome. Yeah, so what was it? You just, like, you feel this instinct that's just like, no, that's not my truth. That's not my current. I can grab this. I can pull the path in the way that I choose. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you're reaching into your pocket and you're just trying to kind of like throw something at them. And
pocket batteries.
What do you need to do? Do you need to roll 2 dice or what?
It says level 2 plus 1 die.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
So your challenge rating for this roll is 5. And go ahead and roll 2 dice. And just keep in mind, let me know if flux happens on the magic die.
Oh god, I will. Yeah, I'm using my blue digital for my regular and the magic.
Awesome.
Can I apply Bene to this?
Yeah, I think you can. Just apply
sorcery, right?
Subtract your sorcery cost of the spell, and then add another sorcery to it to add Bene.
What?
Okay, so this is another great moment for the stream too. So in order to cast a spell, you need to spend its equivalent level in sorcery. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also augment it and add 1 more Bene to the sorcery by spending add 1 more level to the spell by spending 1 more point of sorcery.
Okay, so I'm casting it at level 3.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what. Just think of it as I'm not casting this at level 2. I'm casting it at level 3.
All right, dope.
Cool. So I need a 4. Wait, did one of them show a 4?
No.
Oh, no.
It's a 3. It's a. It was a 3 and a 0, and the 0 is a die.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so we got 2 flux effects.
People, get it together. Let's go.
Well, on the bright side, it looks like things are still kind of like moving in your direction, but I think what happens, Twig, is you reach out to just throw like a battery at them or something or whatever it was that was in your pocket, and instead, just a magical barrage flies out of your hand. And what does the barrage look like?
So I go to throw a 9-volt battery that I have in my pocket. whatever reason. And instead it turns like it kind of like duplicates into a whole shitload of 9-volt battery. And it's just like I go to throw one and all of a sudden like a little meteor shower of 9-volt batteries.
Mm-hmm.
And they're moving pretty fast.
Nice. So I'm going to say, so I think what happens with the flux is the batteries, they have that corrosive kind of chemical quality to them. And these are Duracells from back in the 80s. So they're like big and blocky, and they're probably not sealed right. And as
Excellent.
as
like
the
just
barrage explodes, an acrid, awful stench fills your nostrils as like whatever kind of chemistry you believed this elusive object to have kind of affects the air around you. And as for Maurice, I think what happens when you had your flux is it seems to be almost like kind of like this sympathy pain that you are feeling after touching Twigg, and you have a awful headache that just begins to kind of spread throughout the middle of your forehead and go out into the back of your head. And I'm going to say you have 1 Vex to intellect that I can use at any point. Vex are basically like the opposite of Bene. I get to use Vex in order to reduce their venture for a roll. All right. So I believe that puts us back at the top of the round. And that means I just get to draw another card.
Mm-hmm.
And this one...
Please be good.
This one is Hunter. Nature, death, conflict, survival, seeking a goal. The hunter is a lonely soul, pursuing prey with a dogged tenacity. Their single-minded dedication is why they are successful in tracking, confronting, and killing their prey. The hunter knows better than anyone that it is kill or be killed in the harsh world we live in. In the city, we pretend civilization has lifted us above such things, but the hunter travels into the wilderness where no such delusions exist. But that's not to say that there aren't hunters in the cities. On the contrary, there are hunters who prey upon people. Sometimes these hunters seek murder, but some hunt with other goals, just as dark. The hunter is the adept of notions, her skills in the wilds and her knowledge of her prey, and the best way to bring it down, make her the match for any Vislae. So...
You said that was a Notions Pro card?
Yep.
Heyo!
Heyo!
That's me.
So... This is, so basically, I think in this case, we're going to use Joy for another GM shift. The PC achieves their goal. The PC survives a significant threat. Nature smiles upon the PC so the weather and other conditions are favorable to their needs. And in this case, I think what happens is you go to reload the rifle with a new cartridge, and suddenly that echoing of "you will wake up, you will wake up, you will wake up, you will wake up" begins to build to a crescendo. And that's when you see the blue light tinge around you in indigo. A kind of deeper than deep blue begins to kind of, that is more indigo, more violet and magenta than the sky blue of the expanse to which you have found yourself. And so I think what happens is reality begins to shift and it begins to bleed through. And the blue begins to fade. And you all wake up in your respective homes. But Twigg, you wake up in front of a very large building. Actually, Maurice, what does the Acclamation Center look like in Fartown?
It's not very pleasing. It looks pretty industrial, pretty imposing. It's got like a wrought iron fence around it, and yeah, like not little thin slits for windows. The inside's much nicer, but it looks like a goddamn factory.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's the building that, Twig, you find yourself in front of. Where is everybody right now waking up?
Probably back at Maurice's place,
Yeah.
pointing a gun at something.
Mm-hmm.
Or are we just like waking up, or is it kind of like we physically remanifest?
Yeah, I think you probably manifest back in the indigo sun, and you're not necessarily physically waking up. I will say that you're in kind of like where you normally sleep. Basically your sheets and everything, like you kind of lay down for bed, are completely disturbed.
To fire off that gun. I think I may have done it at the same time. This wouldn't be the first time I put a hole in Maurice's house.
Yeah, I think
it happens. It definitely happens.
You hear an angry knocking at the door. And you hear in a very kind of stylized language, was it? That is the third time this week. Why are you doing this to my family? You could have hit one of my sons.
with speed that belies his kind of portly frame, Maurice steps in and says, "Correct, so lovely to see you. Can I offer you
swearing
some tea?"
behind you. I'm just so upset by this whole situation.
It's been a very. Oh, I'm sure, and I'll go with you. When are you planning to go?
Take your Gallant and shove it up your motherfucker.
And I'll turn around and give you a look that you've seen a lot, which is just like, you're not helping.
I'm not trying to.
And her response to Maurice's question, when are you considering going? Forthwith.
Okay, well, would you like some tea first, or?
You know what? Roll interaction for me. I'm gonna say that this is pretty high difficulty. I'm gonna say it's at least 7.
All right, I'll
7.
burn one.
Yeah. You got a 1? Oh no.
No, but so I was going for a 6 because I burned one of my bene,
Mm-hmm.
and I rolled a 2.
All right. Yeah, she's just like, no, I am sick of your Vislae business in this neighborhood. The Gallant will hear, and she just begins to give you the worst tongue lashing. By the way, this is a tongue lashing given to you by someone with the head of an eagle. So.
Oh, I can do the same thing. My feathers start going.
All right. So we're gonna smash cut. Kyrrie, where do you wake up?
Well, was this sort of a falling asleep out of the blue, or was this we wake up from dreaming?
I think that you kind of like it. You wake up in a similar fashion. You find yourself standing over where you would normally find yourself asleep, and all of the bedding is disturbed. It's as if like you've been kind of like walking around your kind of area of sleep.
Okay, first thing I do, I pull out the mirror, top drawer of my bedside table. What do I see?
You see nothing behind you. You see your hand mirror.
Okay. And nothing, no remnant dream, not caught in that.
No, nothing.
Okay.
You do have a very vague sense of unease, though. Just holding it in your hand. It feels wrong.
Do I have 100% memory of what I just did?
Oh yeah, it's all for all of you. It's clear as a bell.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and go write all of that down, first and foremost. So I'm gonna note the Empyreal soul, and I'm going to say she called herself the Dream of Vislae, but said she had no other. I'm going to note that Maurice was there, but Maurice was the only one that I recognized, and it's the first time that I have seen him in probably several years. I'm going to note down the phrase, help them, and then I'm also going to note the swarm that we saw as just so that I don't forget it, and that we can reference it going forward. I'm also going to make a note to immediately complete the article with respect to the research that in my dream someone else had published out from under me, such that I could get that into peer review as quickly as possible and avoid that happening, because that was not something that I wanted to see repeated in this version of the Actuality.
Awesome. Okay. And Twigg, I think you're in front of the Acclamation Center, and you're in this kind of like this main thoroughfare, and people are walking past you, and they feel familiar, but they are the strangest people you have ever seen. There's one person that has the head of a book, another person that has a head that is actually an open book with lips on the spine. You see somebody who's got a snow globe for a head. There's somebody out in the street, crying out like a crier for a newspaper, a daily newspaper, except it's kind of like, it's like a little kid newsie, but the newsie has a goldfish bowl complete with swimming goldfish for a head. And not only that, but you see somebody kind of like come out of the building in front of you, and he kind of like says almost under his breath, "Oh, we got another new one just washed up. Hey, Tom," and kind of like, speaking back over his shoulder. And I think at this point, actually, before we kind of go to tallying acumen for the session, Twigg, what are you thinking? What's your first thought?
What do I remember from immediately before waking up in Actuality?
You remember the entire dream from the blue.
No, but I mean before that.
You remember the show. You remember?
I remember the show.
Mm-hmm.
Do I remember getting shot in the head?
Oh yeah. You remember a sharp spreading pain.
Cool.
You remember your friends, but you can't remember their faces, but you remember very clearly the woman with the green hair. And everything else seems to kind of come in snippets. Detroit, all of that. It just seems so far away now for some reason, even though it was what felt like minutes ago.
So I'm just literally just standing here kind of going, but wait. Guess I'm dead. Or dying. I'm probably dying.
At which
That's
point,
what's going on.
Tom looks at you, says, yeah, you didn't make it to the Pale, buddy. You're in Indigo. You're in Satyrine, City of Notions. Now come on in.
Alright.
Yeah. And
cool,
okay.
Dude.
Cool.
Cool story, bro. Alright.
So on that note, let's go ahead and tally up end of the session stuff. I just need to find that real quick. And yeah. Okay, so I believe, let's see. I need to find this real quick. Everybody bear with me.
What kind of bear?
This would be if anyone wants to sponsor the stream, this is where we could sponsor stuff.
Yeah.
This
bad copy. Yeah, this would be really nice. You know, anytime there's
any kind of sponsorship,
Open
Jiffy
to
Lube,
all.
we're available.
Pay me $5, I'll staple money to myself. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Let's see. Oh gosh, where did you put it, Monty? Let's see. Okay, rewards of a side scene. Okay. So, you know what? I think in the interest of time, I will locate and do end of session totals in what is called development mode, which you guys will be able to read in our Discord for the show. And you guys will get a little bit more in terms of backstory, side scenes, multimedia recordings, all that kind of stuff is stuff that we're going to be doing to coincide with the stream proper every other Sunday from here on out. So just going around the table, Marcy, tell us a little bit about where we can find you.
Haunting any local cool buildings. No, I think for the most part, I tend to lurk around Tumblr. I have a name brand to uphold, so you can find me still at Experimental Madness.
Awesome.
I'm not very active on Twitter or Instagram, but maybe I will change that moving forward.
Cool. Twigg, where can we, or Hopper, where can we find you?
I am become one. I am pretty much at Fail Deadly on most. Yeah, I think pretty much everything. I think it's Twitter, Instagram. I technically have a Tumblr I just restarted because, like, that's the I'm gonna be doing a lot of crafting bullshit on that goal. The old D&D crafty type shit.
For
Mine is
those
a mess.
for those who don't know, Hopper makes amazing mini terrain. Like Dwarven Forge, hire him, please. So, Bill, where can people find you?
At GhostBike on Discord. Come say hello.
Nice. And Marissa?
Well, the critical cat as I am on Instagram. So all one word. That's my vintage dress Instagram mostly. So weird hobby, different stuff, but love vintage dresses. So do that on there. Twitter, Marissa Coors, all one word. I'm a philosophy editor by day, so that's where I talk about philosophy all the time, in case anyone's interested. And then also on Discord here at Critical Kitten or Twitch, Critical _.
All right, and I am Zach. You will be able to find me on a Twitter handle for @GreatSamino at some point. And you'll be finding me here on Twitch, running The Hole in the World every other Sunday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You merely made this a really great first episode, and look forward to sharing more stories from Indigo with you. And may the invisible sun shine on you all.